Hello, and welcome to episode 216 of Flix and a Six. I'm one of your hosts, Anthony Costanzo, with me, forever and always, the man, the myth, the PB, and the BRHC on a roll, Alessandro Biolsi. Say hello, Al.
Is this hell?
Also joining us this week, who the fuck is this? Gary Garibaldi Gurecki. Say hello, Gary.
We're back, baby, and this totally beeves that I'm here.
Oh, no.
I think this beeves, Al.
I don't know what it means. On this week's episode, we've got Strikes, Consumption, Gary's a Swiftie, Aquaman 2, and I'm sure some other unplanned musings, all before diving into our flick of the week, The Flash. But Al, what are we drinking?
So I think this is the first time we actually have achieved this. Gary's been on, this is like the third or fourth time now, I think. All three of us are going to drink the same beer, which is pretty exciting.
Not just the first time that the three of us, I feel like, isn't it like the first time in general that more than two participants have the same beer?
When there's been a remote guest. When we've had in-person guests, obviously, we've had multiple.
Sounds like one of those sports stats that makes me roll my eyes.
Well, in this case, it's not like it's like, this is the first time that a guest on a Tuesday night has had the same.
Yeah. Also that, though.
Yeah. But no, I think this is the first time that all three remote participants have the same beer. So we have Lone Pine OJ. It's 1 pint, which we adore.
Respect.
And then it's a double IPA. It's 8.1% alcohol by volume. It's from Portland, Maine. My computer's going to die.
It's great. It's good for the show.
OJ. Fresh squeezed American hops packed into a pure citrus juice box. 0% fruit. Fresh, never frozen. Not from concentrate. Unfiltered. Unpasteurized, because all good things are wild and free, just like our tangents. Keep refrigerated. Hoppy beers are better fresh.
What just happened there?
This is not fresh.
No, it's not.
I was buffering. Live yeast.
Live yeast. Amazing. Don't be trashy. Please drink responsibly.
Exactly.
I like that. This is great. Cheers. I'm excited for this one. It smells fantastic.
Cheers.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, it didn't really click well.
I got just a thud happening.
I went to flick my nail against the glass, and I hit the knuckle somehow. So it came out just as a thud.
Now my hand hurts.
It literally does smell like I just poured a glass of orange juice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's good.
It's one of those classic New England beers, man.
That's right. Well, I was trying to find New England beer since you're in Connecticut. I figured that would make it easier for you. But Gary informed me. I was like, oh, hey, we have like a bunch of Treehouse beers. He said, yeah, they don't do it in Connecticut still. And I was like, son of a bitch.
I was going to say, those you're like really supposed to drink fresh, right? Those Treehouse beers. Yeah. So they're fine.
No, I said, oh, definitely. But yeah. No, but those tree houses are now pretty old because we keep going on planned and unplanned hiatuses. So.
Wow.
Yeah, it's true. This is boozy.
Yeah, 8%. It's for real. It's not joking around.
Mm-hmm.
I do like it though.
Have you've had this one before?
Yeah, it's one of those you go back to and you love it. Like, and you kind of forget. Like it's like Dogs and Boats or Captain's Daughter. Resin
having a stroke. What is?
It's fine if you guys don't get Gray Sail in New York. Whatever, man.
I definitely have had at least one beer from Gray Sail.
There we go. And then I mean, it's there's so many beers out there, but when you go back, and it's one of those that's on tap. I think if you have a bigger selection, if they have like 20, 30 beers on tap, I think you usually see a Lone Pine sneak in there, and they're a very versatile brewery. I mean, they do a lot of sours, and I've had some of their stouts before, but their IPAs are fantastic.
Nice. I would definitely be down to try some stouts and sours. I've definitely had this beer once or twice in the past, although it's been a long time. This is pretty damn delightful. I am used to some of these super juicy IPAs tasting strongly of grapefruit. It's interesting to get one that's more pure orange and not even like a blood orange type of thing. So
definitely more like actually orange, but also a little bit pithy, which is fine for like the bitterness of it. But I like it. It's good.
It's balanced between the sweet and the bitter.
I know it's the higher end of the percentage, but like I feel like with these, that booziness doesn't usually come through. But that was the first thing that I noted. I don't love that, but I do like everything else that's going on in the glass.
I found it to be lurking a little bit more in the background, where you're like, it's there, but you can't quite place it.
I feel like it might be a little bit less, a little bit more masked if we had the beer like a year and a half ago when you bought it.
It doesn't taste any sort of stale or anything, you know what I mean? Like, it still tastes like fresh and well balanced, in my opinion.
That's fair. It is very balanced. It's bright. Right when you take that first sip, I like that. It's texture wise. I'm all for it. This is good. I'm Trey Stuckles on this one.
I concur. I'll go 3.
Yeah, Gary, you familiar with the rating system at this point? Or?
You know what? I've forgotten.
Thuckle is half a thumb. They can go up or down. Okay. I'm giving 3 thuckles up, so 1.5 thumbs.
Half a thumb. So but you only have 2 thumbs, right?
Right. Exactly. So 1.5 thuckles. 1.5 thumbs. So 3 thuckles.
Gary,
1.5 thumbs.
Yeah. I mean, I've known you for a long time. I wasn't aware of you having a third thumb, but if you do, I suppose.
No, I'm just.
I suppose you can bend the rules on this one. Who am I to deny you your thumb? You're rightfully.
That's true. Thumb. I'm going to go 2 thucks on this.
Okay.
To be clear, that's 1 thumb.
Yes.
Oh, okay. You know what? Okay, 4 thuckles then.
2 thumbs up.
Yeah.
Full rating.
Full rating, baby.
Nice. Okay. I respect it.
You know what? We need to have a very mediocre beer now, Anthony, because I want to tell you when you ask me that I don't give a thuck.
Nice.
Now that we've established thuck in the cabin, I want to say on a 0 thuck beer, I don't give a thuck.
Goodness gracious. Man. No, this is I like. Also, you get half a thuckle for not half a thuckle, half a thumb for the can art alone. I like it. I actually think I may have had this before.
You probably have. Like I said, I've had it probably twice before this. So
it seems like something that I would immediately grab if I saw it.
It's sweet. It's matte. It's got a nice half an orange. Why not?
Why not? Let's get into some news and nuggets. It's been a while since we've conversed. I feel like there's going to be some stuff. Maybe most importantly, why don't we start off with this strike business that, Al, I believe you have some news for us? So
the funny thing about that is we recorded like a month ago, and that episode just came out 2 days ago. And that episode came out, we talked about the strike, and the episode came out the day that the tentative agreement was made between the WGA and the producers. So everything we said was wrong, which makes us look like gigantic.
That's funny.
But we have more up-to-date stuff, and hopefully this episode will be somewhat up-to-date. So let's go with the most up-to-date.
By the time this goes out, it has either been fully accepted or rejected.
I mean, it's possible. So, no, actually, based on the timeline, that's probably not going to be the case. So, this is this news broke like right as we were sitting down to record on September 26th, just for date purposes. But WGA.
Now you're trying to cover our tracks. I appreciate that. They don't know when we actually recorded.
Well, this time they will. So I'm holding up the proverbial newspaper to prove when we're talking.
It's proof of life.
Exactly. WGA.
Who was in that? Russell Crowe?
The movie? I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
WGA strike to officially end at midnight as guild leaders approve tentative deal with big gains.
I aspire to be a guild leader.
Right? I mean, you could lead your own guild. No one's stopping it.
That's true.
After almost 5 months, the Writers Guild strike will be officially over at 12:01 a.m. Pacific time Wednesday. Quote, today your negotiating committee, the WGAW board and the WGAE council, because, why would we just keep it all the same nomenclature, but all voted unanimously to recommend the agreement. The guild said today a tentative agreement worked out with the studios and streamers on Sunday. You will now go to both guilds' membership for a ratification vote. Eligible voters will receive ballot and materials for the vote, which will take place from October 2nd to October 9th. Sorry, they really rushed writing this because some of the grammar on this is terrible.
Yeah, it's definitely the writers who wrote that wrong and not you reading it wrong.
No. I'm going to reread this sentence, and you will.
They've been on strike for a while, Gary. Give them a break.
I'm going to rewrite this. I'm going to reread this. Eligible voters will receive ballot. That's what threw me off there. That is not.
Yeah, your brain stopped right there. You got real hung up on it.
Yes.
I get that. I do the same thing.
The terms again.
I have ballot.
This one's actually correct. The term of the agreement is September 25th, 2023 through May 1st, 2026. According to the Guild, writers can return to work while the ratification process plays out, delivering on issues that many scribes saw.
Bear rusty, wear rusty. I get it.
As well, the problem is that this is written by people who work for Deadline. This is ostensibly not written by the WGA.
Fair.
that many scribes saw as core to their profession. The deal contains big leaps in AI guardrails, residuals, and data transparency for writers. Leaps that could be transplanted onto the upcoming negotiations between the AMPTP and the SAG-AFTRA, which could start in the next week.
So many goddamn acronyms.
That's also not helping. Quote, the Guild negotiated a new residual based on viewership. Made for, and I don't know what this acronym stands for, HBSVOD. Obviously, the VOD is video on demand. I don't know what the HBS part of it means. Made for HBS VOD series and films that are viewed by 20% or more of the service's domestic subscribers in the first 90 days of release, or in the first 90 days in any subsequent exhibition year, get a bonus equal to 50% of the fixed domestic and foreign residual, with views calculated as hours streamed domestically of the season or film divided by runtime. For instance, projects written under the new MBA on the largest streaming services would receive a bonus of $9,031 for a half-hour episode, $16,415 for a one-hour episode, or $40,500 for a streaming feature over $30 million in budget. This bonus structure will take effect for projects released on or after January 1st, 2024.
It seems fair to me that the writers of a thing would get paid for it.
Yes, considering the old residual contract was paying some of these writers like 30 cents every time, like someone when this thing was streamed. The companies agreed to provide the Guild, subject to a confidentiality agreement, the total number of hours streamed, both domestically and internationally, of self-produced high-budget streaming programs, e.g. a Netflix original series. The Guild may share information with the membership in aggregated form. There's something about there being a full note sent to WGA members. So this is actually the first details we're getting. When this was first announced on, was it Sunday night, I think it was? There was almost no details in it. We're starting to get some of it as they're disseminating this information to the Guild members in order for them to vote for ratification. They can return to work while the ratification process plays out. And if on the off chance that members reject the tentative agreement that was made by the council members that was worked out on Sunday, the strike will start back up again. At 148 days, the strike will be just a few days short of being the Guild's longest ever, the strike of 1988, which lasted 153 days. In terms of minimum salaries...
I showed up, everybody went on strike.
He's going to ruin the movies.
Yes. God forbid other people should be paid, not just the studios. In terms of minimum salaries, the WGA got the same pay raises that the Directors Guild got without striking. In June, the DGA got annual pay raises of 5%, 4%, 3.5% over the life of their contract. That's 13% compounded over 3 years. The DGA also got an additional 0.5% to fund a new parental leave benefit. The WGA had already won paid parental leave in 2020. WGA got the same escalating
feels like something you shouldn't have to fight for, but anyway.
Well, but notes in the summary of the memorandum of agreement that, quote, some minimums and rates increase less, mostly by 3% each year, while a few rates increase only once or do not increase over the contract. These exceptions are the result of patterns established in the industry. That's very vague. Going into the negotiations, they had asked for 6.55 pay increases, which is 16.87% compounded.
I don't have to pay you because we declared samesies on the last contract.
So basically, the WGA had asked for the 16.8% compounded over 3 years, whereas AMPTP was offering 9.26. So they settled basically in the middle at 13.
Okay. I'll take that.
This is more mechanics about whatever that doesn't mean. Okay, here, this is some of the other good stuff here. WGA, however, made a huge gain in its demands for minimum staffing and duration of employment in TV writers' rooms. Previously, then there had been no minimum staffing, which is, if you guys, I know we've probably talked about it on the show, but if you'd forgotten, they were talking about these mini rooms, like specifically for stuff like the Marvels and DC type of shows, where they were like paying like 4 writers to just hash out a bunch of like broad plots and then like not employing them on shows and using like 1 or 2 people to just punch up that. And that's why some of those Marvel shows have sucked. So this is going to not allow them to skirt that sort of thing anymore. Okay. So because there had been no minimum staffing, but come December 1st, development rooms, aka pre-greenlight rooms, and regular writer rooms for television and HBS VOD series will have requirements regarding the minimum number of writers who must be hired and the duration of their employment. This will help with some of these people who are talking about getting hired for like 4 weeks of work.
High budget subscription video on demand.
Okay. That makes sense. This is supposed to help curtail the issue where some of these writers are talking about being hired for like $10,000 to work on a show and thinking they were going to get like 6 months of work and only getting like 6 weeks of work, and then not being able to hire for the next cycle of shows because those hirings were already done while they were blocking off that time for the rooms. So this will guarantee better workflow and therefore monetary flow for writers who get work on shows before they're greenlit, and then when they are greenlit, like actualizing that job. According to the Guild summary, these new provisions go into effect for seasons where the first episode is written after December 1st, 2023, assuming ratification in October. Development rooms. Once 3 writers are convened before a series order, at least 3 writer-producers, including the showrunner, are guaranteed 10 consecutive weeks of employment. Development rooms where writers are guaranteed 20 weeks of worth of work or more are treated as post-greenlight rooms. For these rooms on first season shows, the minimum staff size required will be 3 writer-producers, including the showrunner. For these rooms in the second or subsequent seasons of a show, the required minimum of writers is to be determined by the anticipated episode order. So basically scaling it to the size of the show.
That makes sense.
Which makes sense. That's fair for both sides, I think. For post-greenlight rooms, a formula has been worked out for minimum staffing that depends on the number of episodes ordered, unless a single writer is engaged to write all episodes. So that would be like your Taylor Sheridan type of shows. The minimum staff must also be guaranteed at least 20 weeks or the entire duration of the post-greenlight room, whichever is shorter. If there is a development room, the 2 writer-producers who work in the development room must be hired for the writer's room. The weeks, again, has to do with like them talking about those mini rooms where they hired someone for a couple of weeks and then kicked them to the curb.
That's like the protection in place.
Yes. Weeks worked in the development room can be credited against the guaranteed weeks in the writer's room, but development room compensation cannot be credited. This is more stuff that's kind of nitty-gritty stuff. I want to get down to the other big issue here. Artificial intelligence. Under the terms of the agreement, quote, AI can't write or rewrite literary material. An AI-generated material will not be considered source material, meaning that AI-generated material can't be used to undermine a writer's credit or separated rights. The summary notes that, quote, a writer can choose to use AI when performing writing services if the company consents and provided that the writer follows applicable company policies. But the company cannot require the writer to use AI software when performing writing services. The company must also disclose to the writer if any materials given to them have been generated by AI or incorporate AI-generated material. The WGA says that it, quote, reserves the right to assert that exploitation of writers' materials to train AI is prohibited by the MBA or other law. So this is the big thing, at least as far as I can tell. I mean, as far as quality of life and like short to medium term stuff, those talks about the actual pay obviously is important for all of that. I think the medium to long term stuff that we were just talking about right before this about how many people, minimum staffing, all that sort of stuff, obviously very important as well, because there's real concern among the WGA that like writing as a skill set across like the broad industry is going to get lost if these minimum rooms don't get preserved, because that's how so many of like today and like the previous generation's showrunners, they only became that because they were able to work in a bunch of writing rooms on other shows. And if that was no longer allowed to them, eventually we're going to kill that golden goose. Mm-hmm. And then obviously the long term, this idea about, putting protections on what the uses of AI is. I have no objection, and I'm assuming for the most part that most of the body of the WGA doesn't have any problems with. If you want to use AI as a tool just to spin up a bunch of words real quick go for it. But just using that wholesale is going to be even worse than killing the golden goose of having those writers. You can't just have AI regurgitating and vomiting out words based on everything that it's read everywhere all over the place. Like, I understand the way that the machine learning works and the way that our brains work in some ways has some similarities, but it is not the same thing. That is not replicable on a wholesale to create new content that way.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, I feel like, like as a company, if they decide that they want to do that and disclose that, like, on one hand, it's like, go nuts. It's going to suck and be the same like stuff that is going to piped out. The bigger problem comes in with the training of those models being actual like IP and skill sets of other people that did the work.
Which it sounds like that last bit was talking about prohibiting that, which is an important protection.
That's kind of cool that they actually, that's the current, well, I don't know. We'll see how it goes, but like that's currently in there. I feel like that's a pretty decent protection for what? I don't know. How long was it? For 4 months? Like, what? Like, how long does the actual contract last?
It looks like it's about 3 years.
Okay.
Which I think they are always on the shorter side, but basically it seems like the way that it's been going, what I was hearing within the past couple of months is they tend to have a strike lockout type of situation every 3 or 4 cycles, kind of, it seems like, because it's been 15 years since the last strike. And they've redone their contract like 3 times in that time period.
Sure. So, when was the time that the strike was going to end? 12 o'clock. What was it?
As of tonight. Yeah, like midnight. Well, it'll happen while we're on the air.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So long as at like 12:02 they don't all quiet on the Western Front and just like,
ooh,
yeah,
oh yeah. The only AI movie I'm interested in was directed by Steven Spielberg and has Jude Law in it.
I never saw that one, actually.
I'm sorry. And it was finished posthumously when Stanley Kubrick died and he filmed some stuff for it.
I actually had no idea. I thought that was just...
I was sitting on that joke for so long. I'm sorry.
I feel like you stumbled over so many words in there that I was concerned that either you were holding on to it and trying to get it out, or you finished like 3 more of those beers while out.
We got gold here, Jerry, gold.
It sounds like someone was. It sounded like someone was sending your membership ballot.
That's AI is pretty good. It's a weird movie. Like it's pretty good. Anyway,
was that the one with Robin Williams too?
No, that's
Bicentennial Man,
which is also
I always do that.
That we love.
Oh, Anthony, you gave that beer so many fuckles they will spewed it.
I always do it. I always do that. That's what got me. I always get Bicentennial Man.
If somebody says
I do,
we can end the podcast.
I literally always get AI.
Oh my god!
Yes, and then there's another joke where we talk about Tom Cruise can go after the AI if they start using it.
Well, that was last
on a
week,
submarine. I know,
which is to
sorry.
say a month ago.
So,
no, it's okay. That episode just came out like yesterday. We did that. That was our most recent episode.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're not the
almost
writers.
seamless.
We're not in the guild. This doesn't affect us personally, but if they're agreeing to it, if they're ending the strike,
it does affect us personally. I would say
no. There's a trickle down.
We are connoisseurs of fine television and movies,
but if it's enough for them to end the strike and they're happy to go back to work, then obviously I'm very happy. And
I agree.
I think most directly. So this means that they can get back to promoting the movies that are to come out going into the Christmas season.
Sure.
Can they unpush back Dune now?
I don't know. I don't think so. Timothy
They got enough
Chalamet,
time.
he was in the streets with Kylie Jenner. He was
Such a weird couple.
kind of promoting Wonka just by being out. There's another story we're going to get to about another celebrity promoting their movie that's coming out, maybe by being at a football game this past weekend. So, I mean, I'm just excited to get back to that, really. The Marvels, I want to give that a shot. And Wonka, I actually do like the trailer. So there's still plenty of movies to come out the back half of the year. This obviously wasn't like the pandemic in any way that any direct way where we could see these movies and they were coming out, but we didn't have Will Ferrell on The Tonight Show or Denzel Washington talking about the Equalizer 3. So I after Barbenheimer, I do think some of the movies that did come out this summer in this strike time were probably affected negatively.
Sure.
Well, more on that. Actually, the final addendum to this whole story is that this seems to be teeing up SAG-AFTRA to go back in earnest to negotiating, because actually the actors won't be able to go do any promotion until their end of the strike is done. This is just for the writers, so they're probably going to use a lot of these same concepts in their, so like there's a framework now for them to negotiate, and they kind of know what the tolerances are for all of that. But they still have their own thing to do, and they are made it very clear. No, we're not done. We are not done striking. And the two groups have been in solidarity with each other since they've both been on strike concurrently for the last 2 months or whatever it's been. So ostensibly, it looks like next week is when SAG-AFTRA is supposed to be back formally in talks, in the same way that the WGA was for the past week, where they were actually, the union heads were sitting down with the representation from the AMPTP. So that same thing is supposedly going to be happening next week for SAG-AFTRA. So hopefully,
I wonder how that'll go. I hope it goes well.
Done. Yeah. So I know.
Back in.
Well, the funny thing is, so the head of SAG-AFTRA is Fran Drescher, I believe, and she's been pretty militant in her public comments. So I had another article on here from earlier in the day, I believe. Yes, earlier in the day. And this was before this talk about the actual strike ending at midnight today, but after the fact of knowing that they've had the tentative agreement. So riding the momentum that has hit Hollywood since the WGA and Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers struck a deal on September 24th, SAG-AFTRA leaders have penciled in meetings with the Carol Lombardini-led group by the end of next week, we hear. As always in labor relations, the situation's fluid and no negotiation has truly started until all participants are seated at the bargaining table. Quote, "We have no confirmed dates scheduled and there will not be meetings with the AMPTP this week," a SAG-AFTRA spokesperson said. "We do have dates confirmed. We will inform our members. No one should rely on speculation." The Actors Union strike has been on strike since July 14th, when its members joined the WGA on the picket lines, creating Hollywood's first joint strike since the Kennedy administration. The writers have suspended picketing and are awaiting details about their deal, which is what we just talked about. So they have their vote or whatever. SAG-AFTRA President Fran Drescher has been vocal and passionate in her rhetoric, saying, among other things, that, quote, "the AMPTP's maniacal corporate culture for greed must stop." Meanwhile, the union's National Executive Director, Duncan Crabtree Ireland, has made many public appearances, including at the Toronto Film Festival, to talk up his side's point of view. Meanwhile, they have voted unanimously on Monday to authorize a strike against the video game industry, citing concerns including the exploitative use of AI and lagging wages. Now, that was something I didn't realize that was even a thing. I didn't realize that voice acting in video games was covered by any of these contracts. That was actually pretty surprising to learn from me today. So,
yeah, hopefully they don't get screwed out of this.
Well, that's the thing is, the high-profile actors and actresses actually tend to get paid pretty well. But a lot of them,
right?
If you look at some of your favorite voice actors from video games / animated shows and movies, some of them have 500 acting credits because they don't get paid very much for a lot of those. And to be fair, some of those acting credits are I went into a booth for 2 hours, and it's okay, yeah, you're not going to get rich going in the booth for 2 hours, but it's the much quieter version of all of this and how lagging in their pay has been, I think. So I guess it would be good to get them some protections, because there's become much higher quality production of games and animated stuff that part of that is because the quality of the work of those actors and actresses. There's some voice actors who do an incredible job.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting. It's fascinating to see an entire industry kind of get behind each other on something like this. I think that's really cool. It does bother me when people bitch. I jokingly bitch about this happening, like, oh, we're gonna get so screwed. I don't blame them for striking. I blame the studios and all that bullshit that they have to deal with, and that's what bothers me. But like when they're like, oh, why don't they just go like the rhetoric that you hear like from these people that are just like, I'm gonna say it my parents' generation, that'll be like, oh, like, what are they complaining about? They get paid X, Y, and Z for making movies. I don't think people understand exactly how many people are employed by this industry and how little so many of them make.
Yes.
And like it's a big deal. Like there's a lot to it. It's like it's a livelihood, it's art, it's everything. It, like if it's not protected, it's going to be squandered and destroyed. And it's I'm just kind of glad that it seems like they were like at least like partially successful with this one. So hoping that
I think based on what we've seen, it looks like the WGA got probably more than I anticipated them getting.
Well, you know what? I say partially successful because I feel like a true success would mean not having to fight this battle every X number of years, right? Like it would just be like they'd be cool with it and it would be fine and we could treat each other like decent human beings, but that's not the way of the world, unfortunately. So I'm just glad that they were able to come out or seemingly come out on top right now.
Well, I do wonder what a shorter term contract, who it benefits more or less, because I don't honestly have a great frame of reference for this. The closest thing I can do is in sports, and actually the longer term contracts tend to not benefit, by and large, the labor. If you look at like stuff like in sports, there's a huge upheaval going on in college sports, specifically college football, because that's by far the biggest revenue generating sport in college sports. And it's a little bit more diffuse in how their stuff is done as opposed to let's call it charitably, the oligopoly that professional sports are, where 32 teams in the NFL or 30 teams in the NBA or 30 teams in the MLB negotiate one national contract that applies to all of them equally, in addition to supplementary revenues from regional stuff that each of them has. But the main portion of all of their revenues comes from TV contracts that are negotiated 1/30th or 1/32nd of for each team, but it's done all in one with each of the major programming networks, or now so the streamers have gotten into the game as well. College sports is different. The major conferences all negotiate themselves. What happens? What the contract for the SEC is not equal to the one for the Big Ten, which is not equal to the Pac-12, which is why for anyone who follows college sports knows what this is going on. But I know, Anthony, that's not the case for you. The Pac-12, which used to be the Pac-10, used to be the Pac-8, which is an old historical conference with major schools: Oregon, USC, Stanford, Cal, like Washington State, all these schools that are big schools with big programs with long histories. That conference is going to cease to exist after this season. And that is something that has only happened in the last 3 months. It just up and happened because there was chasing of the dollar by all of these things because they were locked into a terrible television contract and they have like no faith in the leadership of their conference. The ACC signed a 10-year deal like 8 years ago or something like that with ESPN that was lauded at the time. And then after that, the SEC and the Big Ten, which are the two biggest conferences, or at least the most financially powerful conferences, signed shorter-term deals, much more lucrative amounts after that. The ACC is being left in the dust by that because they locked themselves in long-term. They didn't foresee that the market was in the process of exploding. And so basically it's like trying to go toe-to-toe with someone doing cocaine when all you do is drink a cup of coffee. Like it's not feasible to continue that fight for energy, right? It's just not it's not going to go well for you. So for
judging
labor,
by the look on Gary's face, he just pictured that like two people actually going after something in that with that.
Like, just picture two people. If I drink enough coffee,
yeah, and that's what the ACC is trying to do, and it's not working.
Oh man.
But anyway, so I don't know. In this case, have a short-term contract.
That's interesting.
If we're still dealing with the ripple effects of the pandemic and that's effect on both the work and, indirectly the economy, which is actually more direct than we all probably realize when it comes to this, when we realize how far Wall Street is into all of these things. So 3 years from now, things could be much better and they could negotiate a much bigger like more lucrative financial thing, terms. Whereas the protections that they needed are in there now.
It is interesting because I feel like a lot of that stuff that you're talking about at the front of that, all of those agreements was like related to what was that? Whatever the acronym was for like basically high cost streaming stuff, and just the concept of like fighting for that now, but fighting for it kind of in hindsight, right? Because of everything that's happened over the past few years in streaming, kind of exploding. But I mean, soon enough it'll implode. I don't think anybody's going to be surprised by that. And then what is that? What's the next negotiation going to have to be about, right? Because it's going to change again. Like, are we like going to go back to like by securing these streaming rights when we go back to some garbage television platform is or all their stuff going to be like chopped again? Like, it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out.
If they sign a 10-year contract and 4 years from now, Netflix and Disney Plus and Amazon didn't exist anymore and all streaming is through Google and Apple. Well, now that those terms aren't going to look nearly as strong as they did when they first signed them. Whereas with 3 years, if something starts going down in the third and final year, you have the opportunity to get out ahead of that, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, okay. That is interesting. Well, then in that case, I just when I say like, and that is all of that is valid. I guess I feel like there was an aspect of it during the past however many like whatever this long stretch of time was. It's like you're kind of fighting for your livelihood. I wish it didn't have to come to that point for them.
Yeah,
right. Like that you could still live and work while figuring it out, but obviously it wouldn't hold much weight if you're still working under the same system that you're trying to improve or fight. So good on them for sticking with it and hopefully coming out on top with their peers and the acting side.
Oh yeah. Well, I think a lot of it is about closing loopholes. So, I mean, just ways that companies can get around actually paying people like a livable wage. I do think like a short-term kind of gain for viewers and subscribers has been some of these like show swaps that have been going on, like HBO leasing out some of their older content to Netflix, or this AMC Plus has been on HBO for like a couple weeks now. So, I mean, it is a shuffling of content.
That. I didn't realize that was a thing.
Yeah, it was really weird. I just turned it on and like Killing Eve was there. I was like, I've never seen this. And then I still haven't seen it. But
stick with that. I watched a whole season. I was like, this is bullshit. I hate this. I was like, I gave this more time than I should have given it.
That's okay. Yikes. Now I'm just thinking about you like watching Killing Eve and being mad.
Me and Kim were so pissed. We were watching it, like the first episode, like, okay, we're into the second episode, like, okay, it's good. They were like, where's this go? Why are we for it? Is it gonna get somewhere? What's happening? I don't know if I like these characters. Fifth episode, it just kept getting worse and worse. And by the end, we're like, should we skip ahead and find out what happens at the end? And we did, and we're like, that was stupid. And then we just
because I cut I don't know, I cut from cable maybe like a couple months ago, like officially. So I do believe like maybe a year ago, going back over a year ago, I was paying like, you know, over $200, but I was getting every channel. Like I had every movie channel, and I mean the access and the ease of use obviously is more geared towards older people that don't understand the functionality or don't want to have like 20 different things on their bill where they're paying for AMC Plus and Paramount Plus and Apple Plus. I mean, it does add up either way. So that's just one thing I have noticed during the strike is just a shuffling of content where you're getting just some sharing between some of the subscription services.
Which that is interesting. I'm kind of wondering if that's why. So we have access to Peacock, and I watched all of Yellowstone, and that's not from that network, from what I understand. So maybe that's like something similar to what you're talking about.
that was actually a different situation. I looked into it a while back because my parents love the show. They've watched the whole thing. My brother wanted to get into it, and we have Paramount Plus, and he's like, "Why can't I watch it?" And I was like, "I don't know." So I dug into it. That has actually way predated this whole shuffling thing. So the irony is Paramount Plus is entirely basically built on the back of Taylor Sheridan, who created that show, created the spinoffs, created the Jeremy Renner show as well, and the Sylvester Stallone show. Like all those shows like are created by him. But the first one was Yellowstone, and at the time, Paramount, Viacom, whatever, didn't have any faith in it, and so as part of the deal, they signed over the streaming rights to Peacock, and then it became the biggest current show on television.
Oh my god!
And they can't stream their own show on their own platform
Yikes.
because they signed away those rights at the beginning.
That's true. I think there's like a CBS connection in there, unless CBS is Viacom. I'm not sure, because now it
CBS, Viacom, Paramount, it's all like the same company.
Okay, because now that's a whole debacle where now it is airing from the beginning on CBS. So
on terrestrial CBS though, like live,
like
on Channel 2.
So
oh my god.
It's just, and I guess it was really hard to get DVD copies, or there was no DVD. It was only streaming or something.
Yeah, I don't think they make the hard copies anymore for these shows.
So it's like the number 1 show in America, but how do you watch it? It's so insane.
Yes,
that's hilarious. I know my dad would grumble about like something with regards to that show. Like he's been doing it for years. And like how he was like, he has Paramount Plus and he watches, like you were saying, all of those other things on it. He's like, but I can't watch Yellowstone. He's like, I have to watch that on Paramount, which is a different app from the Paramount Plus app that he pays for, like to watch that. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I don't know what you're saying, but all of it's making me angry.
So that's one of those old school licensing deals where like, they're not the only one. There's been plenty of times where one of the companies, like say NBC, Universal, Comcast, whatever, would like greenlight a show, and it would go into full production. Gary's been replaced by
Caddy Gurecki.
They would go through the whole process of greenlighting and making a first season of a show. Right. But then they would decide that they didn't want to actually pick it up to series order, but they had already started making the show, and some other network would get a sweetheart deal to run the show. So every once in a while, if you look at some of those old like sitcoms or even dramas from like the 90s and 2000s, you could watch the whole show on NBC, and then in the end credits, you would see produced by like ABC Studios. It's like, what the fuck?
That's funny. Yeah. It is. It is just so funny when like my IP like will jump across the barriers like that. Like even like what was that? I loved it. Brooklyn Nine-Nine started on one network and got canceled, and then was picked up and finished on another network. And
that's also happened a million times too.
That's like a whole other thing where it's just so bizarre. Like it's funny. Like there is a kind of medium ground between like I very much prefer the options of the streaming services and being able to start something when I watch it. I don't watch live television. I haven't had cable in years. I've always like, as soon as I was able to, I just kind of cut the cord. But, and I subscribe to a whole bunch of services and I'm okay with it. It's still cheaper than a cable bill was. That being said, I would much rather like, if my ISP had some sort of like ultimate streaming bundle that gave me access to all of them, I would pay for that.
The thing that I've been talking about for years.
The thing but like, you know, at a reasonable price. Otherwise, sure. I'm just going to go back to and the ad-free ones. Let's be clear. Like this whole there's like every one of the ones that have the ad version that you pay monthly for. Like that is such BS. Paying monthly for it and having ads is BS. I will not. I refuse.
I'm okay with it as long as they have like a tiered system, like, you know, like Hulu or whatever. Like if you pay $3.99 a month, you get, you know, 90 seconds of ads with every episode, and if you pay $8.99 a month, you get no ads. I'm fine with it as long as they're doing that.
Maybe that's okay if you're starting off that way, but when somebody like Disney changes the tiered pricing, that the one that you're currently paying for that is ad free is now the one that has ads, and you have to pay more to get ad free. That's bullshit.
Sure, but my point is, if you set it up properly to begin with, where you
a couple of bucks a month. and then you get ads, that's fine. But
Yeah.
once you, I don't know, you break double digits, and I've
No, if you're paying $14.99 and you're still watching ads, then there's something's gone wrong.
absolutely not. Yeah. So I always had such an issue with paying for cable television, and a 30-minute show was like
that was just The Walking
minutes.
Dead. Let's be honest.
Oh my god, that was an hour-long show that was 18 minutes. AMC is the worst offender.
Yeah,
it's bad.
It is.
It's fine. I had no problem downloading that show after years of paying for cable.
And that's part of the problem too. And this isn't going to be me about cable versus streaming versus whatever. But I think we all have to come to terms in some way, shape, or form with it's nice to be able to get over and no one likes corporations and I'm fine with all that. But at the end of the day, we're talking about all these negotiations by people talking about trying to get paid for their work. That money has to come from somewhere.
Sure.
And at the end of the day, some of that money is going to come from us. And you can choose to pay only for what you want to watch. I have no objection to that. I understand that after a while, the cable model got ridiculous with you were paying for 150 channels and you only watch 20 of them and all of that. I have no problem if people want to go a la carte and all that sort of thing. But I have never been someone who pirated stuff. This isn't me saying that morally or judgmentally. I'm just saying that if you want that stuff that you enjoy watching to keep being made, the money has to come from somewhere. You can pass the buck all you want, but part of the reason that all of this industry is so fucked up, and I'm saying part because a lot of it is just the bullshit corporate model that's been established for the last 30 years in this country that's just come for media and entertainment at this point. There is the corporate greed thing that Frandra's talking about that she's 100% accurate about, but there is a piece of the pie that has been the consumer trying to get over and not pay for entertainment. You can't do that in any other realm, really. If you love video games, you can't play Starfield without paying something, whether it means you buy the game or you subscribe to Game Pass. At the end of the day, in order to get that game, you got to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
And to whatever extent, there's got to be the same thing for movies and television and music as well. You got to pay something. If you only want to pay for what you're engaging with specifically, that's fine. I have no objection to that. But if you
there is a difference though in all of those industries though. For example, with music, it's basically if you could either buy your own music or you could subscribe to something. I mean, you could pirate it, but I'm not going to consider that an option. I don't like that concept, but I can pay for a music subscription and I get all of the music that I want to listen to.
Sure.
Right? One subscription.
Yes.
Video games, a little bit, it starts to blur the lines a little bit, right? Different consoles, different systems. You could probably get away with one of them and then buying games on the other one, which honestly is probably your best bet at this point. But Game Pass is an incredible value, and there's tons of games that you could play, especially some pretty significant first party games that are included in that release day and date, which is great. The $18 a month for that seems perfectly valid, especially if you consider the cost of it. It's actually a hell of a deal if you consider the cost of a single video game. That's actually it's relatively inexpensive if you're going to play more than 2 games a year.
Yeah.
But then you get into TV and movies, and TV is the worst part of this because with TV, it's all of those networks that have all of those streaming services that each cost a substantial amount of money. Whereas movies, I don't really care too much about because I have no I'll buy a movie, but that's just me, right? I'll go see a movie in the theater. I'll buy a movie 5 times. You've seen me do it. But there's
movies like Star Wars and Batman that he owns.
I've got so many versions of each of those movies. It's so just so many. I think we counted my Batman Forevers once, right? And there was
I think he
6
owned
of them or something.
5 different copies of Batman Forever or something like that. Between VHS and DVD and widescreen DVD,
no regrets.
And Blu-ray and 4K.
Tommy Lee Jones should have to write you a letter.
Only if he does it with the same disdain with which he talks to Jim Carrey.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just the TV model is out of hand because of all of the networks.
Yes, the model needs to get better. And like I said, the majority of it is the corporate greed bullshit. Like that needs to be sorted. And who knows, maybe these strikes will help setting us on that way. That's fine. That's let's call it 80% of the problem. My point is, you got to pay something. And if you want to be discerning and selective in how you do that, that's totally fine. But the money has to come from somewhere, especially as we get out of the ad-supported model entirely by going full streaming. Like you're talking about, you only want to pay for a service. You don't want any ads at all. Like you can watch over-the-air television, the basic channels, for free. You don't pay a cent for it. Right. You're going to have commercials. Like, you know, you could pay for cable, and so you're paying and you're getting ad-supported in addition to that, right?
Yeah.
That's okay, too.
I still stand firm on the whole ad-supported or me-supported, though.
That's fine. If you want to be that literal and you want to, like, create... And this is kind of like an expansion of what I've said all along. Like, give us a portfolio of options. People will choose these things, and then you will get it. Go to fucking companies and get ad revenue from them. And if people want to pay $0, make them watch 1-to-1 amount of ads for the amount of show. Like, I don't care, right? Like, if you want to pay 0 cents to watch Yellowstone, then for 45 minutes of Yellowstone, you got to watch 40 minutes of ads. That's the price you pay. It's your time and your eyeballs, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't want to watch a single ad, then pay $10 a month or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like, whatever the mathematics work, like the specifics don't matter to me. But the point is, give them like options to the consumer, and you're gonna get the money. Like, they're all worried that like this money is gonna dry up. It's only gonna dry up if you continue to piss everyone off.
Yeah, that's true. It's also hard. It's very hard. Like right now, my family gets Netflix through our T-Mobile plan. Right, we have a T-Mobile family plan. We've had it for years. It includes Netflix. We maybe pay like a $5 upcharge to get like the 4K version of it, and we're able to watch it in each of our houses. It's like part of like the rule with that plan. Like you can have multiple people can log in so long as they're on the same plan. Like even if they're in different houses, it's fine. I'm like, great. So we have that plan. That's cool. It's bundled into our phone bill. Awesome. And I think that's great because I actually, as of late, can't imagine paying for Netflix separately.
Yeah, I'm going to have to cancel that. I've been talking about it for a long time, but like it's time for me to cancel.
Then I think about Apple TV. And I think about the incredible value that I get for like the $4 a month it is or whatever. Like now I have it bundled into some other Apple plan with all these other things that I actually need. So it ends up, I feel like it ends up kind of like balancing. One of my services is free because I was going to be spending that amount of money for 4 of the things and I get 5 of them. So like whatever, but like
buy 4 get 1 free. Got it.
Yeah. It's just like but like the actual quality over quantity on that platform is outstanding. Agreed. And then HBO is the one that I like always like want to reinvestigate for the $15 a month. But then I look at like their list of movies that they have available to me. I'm like, it's a pretty good fucking deal. Like, it's just like there's a lot of good content there, like especially like legacy content.
They can continue to charge those prices because their although the catalog has taken a bit of a hit with the whole merger and all that, but the catalog is still superb, and the new original content they put out is worth hanging on and not like bouncing back and forth. Like that's the thing. I don't have the time and energy to do the thing of I'm gonna be subscribed, I'm not gonna be subscribed, I'm gonna be subscribed. No. Mm-hmm. I'm either going to wholesale be in the platform or I'm going to wholesale be out of the platform. Like, I can't be doing this. If I need to watch this one show and then I'm not going to need it for the next 11 months, I'll find a way to borrow someone's password or screen. Like, you know, and for that one show, and then I'll go dark. Like, I'm not going to keep canceling and resubscribing.
I feel like my ideal scenario for like, you want to charge $15 a month for it, fine. Like that's an option. Or like, if you want to spread that, like what would be the 24-hour cost of activating it? Like if I could do that, that would be my ideal scenario. And I wouldn't think twice. I'd be like, oh, I'm going to watch this thing, turn it on, and I get charged for that day. Like, I would be okay with that.
They got to figure out the actual subscription models before they can do that, man. You're asking too much.
I could do that. I'm a software engineer. Like, it wouldn't be that hard.
You can do that. They can't.
Well, the thing with HBO, too, is it's still one that the cable companies use as a bargaining chip, pretty much, with your plan. So even if you get the most basic cable or you call to cancel or something like that, it's the first thing they throw in. They say, oh, well, we can give you one premium network if you want Stars or Showtime or HBO. And I assume most people choose HBO.
Well, the funny thing is HBO is a total whore because their package exists with everyone. Amazon has a package with them.
Yeah.
All of the cable networks have a package with them. DirecTV has a package with them. Phone companies have packages with them. Like, that's incredible.
The one that I found the most frustrating actually was Hulu, always, because of the FX content with the Hulu on FX or FX on Hulu, and they
Somewhere
just
Brian
have,
is clenching his fists.
and they just have their own thing. Like, I was paying for cable, I had FX, but I couldn't watch Why the Last Man or some of those exclusive shows because I didn't have Hulu.
Were you the one person that they needed to keep that show going?
Maybe. Thank God.
And he couldn't do it because he didn't know how.
I
can't get it.
Like Atlanta and Sunny were still on cable or whatever, because I would just get I'm like, well, FX has great shows. They make great television, even without being HBO, where they have like swearing and nudity and stuff like that.
No, at this point they've fully like lowered the veil. Like every single week, What We Do in the Shadows says fuck once or 3 times, and like on FX on television at 10 p.m. live.
Get fucked.
Why don't you get fucked?
I have to catch up on that.
I will agree with you. Hulu is the one that's always been kind of the ugly stepchild, in my opinion. It's because I don't think it ever knew what it wanted to be, and Disney has done a better job, but it's still kind of redundant. Like at this point, I don't know why they just don't create like a Hulu tab on Disney. I don't know why it needs to be a standalone service. I guess it's just to keep the fucks of What We Do in the Shadows away from 7-year-olds who want to watch Star Wars. Like that's got to be the only thing that makes sense. But does it make enough sense to do the whole thing they want? Because the platform sucks. Like the actual GUI sucks. I hate the interface so much. But there's great content. Like you said, all of the FX stuff is on there. Fantastic stuff. I want that available at my fingertips whenever I want to watch it because it's great. They make great shows and always have, and I hope always will. But I would never have had Hulu if it wasn't for the fact that my phone company gave me the Disney bundle as part of my subscription. So I get Disney Plus and ESPN Plus and Hulu as part of the whole thing for like whatever it is, $6 a month or something stupid like that. I don't know.
I hate Hulu specifically because they're the one that is expensive plus ads, which I think is stupid. But I just had this whole issue with my internet bill. And so like for years, I've had the Disney bundle, which includes Hulu and ESPN, 2 things that I do not use, but they were in the bundle, and HBO and gigabit internet. And it was $70 for 3 years. And then it was like, it went up to like 80 something, and then saved that amount for like 2 more years. And I was moving, obviously I have moved, and I wanted to keep that plan. But I needed internet in both houses for a short period of time, right?
Gary, that's why we're doing this. That's why we're doing this episode this week and not 2 weeks ago, like we were 3 weeks ago
when I didn't have internet for those couple of days.
Because we recorded the week before that, and we literally talked about it. He's like, "Oh yeah, September 6th, we're moving. September 5th, I still need the internet." And we were supposed to record on whatever September 4th or 5th or whatever it is, and they shut it off in anticipation of the next day turning it on.
Oh my god, it was so ridiculous. But it basically came down to, I wanted the same plan that I had, and you are able to migrate a plan from your existing home to your new home. That's a thing that they do, which is like great. But can I also have a plan at the old home? I would have had to migrate the plan and then activate a new plan for X number of days. It's like, this is ridiculous. Just move it to the new house. And they did that. And I went to T-Mobile and I got like the 15-day free trial of their home internet box that you put in the window. And it worked fine for those few days that I was there once I got it set up.
When you opened the box, was JD and Turk singing at you or something?
Yes. They come with it. But
they install it.
I got that all squared away. And then I was like, I was watching something on Disney Plus and it disconnected. And I was like, this is going to be a thing, isn't it? And I signed out, signed back in. And it was like, you no longer have an account. I'm like, well, I'm paying for it through this stupid plan that I don't even want. And I found out that I had it activated. I was on customer support for 2 hours. I was with Verizon and then I was with Disney, and I had them both in 2 separate chats, and I was cross-talking the two of them. It was ridiculous. Anyway, they were like, yeah, we don't know.
You and me and Gary at the start of this. recording.
Yeah, exactly. Neither one of them knew what the problem was. I was like, okay, can I remove it from my account then and just sign up for it separately? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, what? Could we have started there? Like, what? And
No,
at the
you
end of
can
the day,
never start
what happened was this came down to is like, I'm going to just take the Disney bundle off of my Fios bill because I'm not getting a discount for it anymore, and I don't want the bundle. I just want Disney. So I was like, let's just do that. And then I was like, I'm also going to take the HBO one off my bundle because I could just pay directly to HBO for that and manage that subscription separately from the annoying Fios bill utility thing that they have set up. And so like my gigabit internet came down to like $50 a month. And I'm pretty sure at some point they're going to realize that. But for now, it's great. And I was like, this is awesome. And then I was like, but my HBO still works. And then 15 days passed and HBO still works. At some point in the near future, HBO, I assume, will not work. But for now, I have it.
You're in a reverse Office Space situation.
Yeah.
We
Exactly.
figured out that we had terminated him, but he was still getting paid. So we just fixed the loop.
I'm not touching anything. I'm just gonna leave it as is until it
one day it won't work and then you'll address it.
Exactly. Exactly. So anyway, streaming services.
So
Gary,
Taylor Swift and
yeah, I was gonna say I hear you're a Swiftie.
Good. Topic number 2, baby. So going back to these kind of like pseudo promotions for movies, did you guys already discuss the AMC deal for the Eras Tour movie and how that's only going to be in AMC theaters?
No, we've discussed nothing. I'm not even aware of this until you.
Okay, so Taylor Swift owns the right to that content, obviously, because it was shot. It's her cameras. Like, she put all the footage together. She's the executive producer of the movie, the star of the movie. It's her movie. So she went to the theaters to have it distributed, and they all gave her pretty much lowball offers, which is like really insane. So basically what AMC did was...
Wait, hang on a second. I want to hear the rest of what you have to say. But movie theaters, which have been like wheezing and trying to not die for the last like 6 years.
It doesn't make any sense.
Are going to lowball a live concert experience for Taylor Swift, who notoriously people are willing to do terrible illegal things not to get the tickets for free, but to get the money to pay to go see her.
They can't pay enough money.
The movie theaters are going to lowball this person who is like the hottest thing that can be bought currently.
And your plan is to blackmail this person?
Yes, I feel like Morgan Freeman talking to that dweeby guy from The Dark Knight right now. Like, what in the ever-living shit, AMC... You deserve to die. Your business deserves to die if you're gonna be that fucking stupid.
No, so it's the other way around. So AMC actually paid the most money. They gave her the best deal in terms of revenue sharing.
Oh, sorry, I misunderstood.
So it's going to be exclusively at AMC. No other. You have to go to an AMC movie theater to watch the Eras Tour movie.
Okay,
and that's it. She shared distribution only with that theater chain.
Got it. So the rest of the industry lowballer is what you're saying.
Yes.
Did you say live? This is going to be a live thing?
No. Well,
no, but I mean, like it's a movie
like
of
recorded
her
live.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
I got you. Okay, cool.
So that actually comes out this month. I forget when exactly, but she's releasing Red, Taylor's version, at the end of the month, and before that, by a couple of weeks, is going to be the Eras Tour movie. And I assume it's going to hang around for a couple of months, maybe even going into the Christmas season.
Until people stop buying it.
True. But I guess she wouldn't be on strike because she's not a writer or whatever, so she can promote her movie as much as she wants. Just the optics would not be great.
No, it's different. I mean, there's these things that are still going on. I mean, like independent movies, like stuff like that, like still exist because they're outside of the framework of that.
So I guess more in terms of solidarity, she doesn't want to be out here being like, go see my movie on October 4th or whatever.
Yeah.
Instead of doing that, she's pretending to date Travis Kelce of the Kansas
allegedly.
City
Allegedly.
So she can be on the highest every year, the highest rated television shows are sports anyway. So this Bears-Chiefs blowout that's 40-0, basically the entire game, and they're just cutting away to Taylor Swift. And they're just cutting away.
She's in one of the private boxes with Travis Kelce's mom cheering on the game up there. Now, I did not hear this theory until today because first of all, I didn't know about this movie thing. But second of all, even after hearing it, it's like, okay, possible? Yes. But it doesn't add up to me because all along, the talk the last few days, which makes much more sense to me, is like, if you look at the trajectory of Travis Kelce, it makes sense if you were to say he was trying to raise his profile, because I don't know how much more her profile can be raised. Is there a person in this country who's not aware that Taylor Swift exists? Like, there are
Mickey Mouse.
There's millions of people who don't know Travis Kelce exists in this country, right? But there can't be even thousands of people who don't know that Taylor Swift exists in this country, right?
It's the same reason why, like, Coca-Cola buys billboards, right?
No, because, like, I don't know. That's actually probably not a terrible analogy. I'm just saying, like, I don't know how she raises her profile, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, yeah, you're always going to want a certain amount of awareness just to get her on your mind, right? You have a Coke billboard because, yeah, you know Coke exists, but you saw a billboard and maybe, you know what, a Coke sounds good right now, or whatever, right? Like, whatever the product is.
I don't need to be convinced it's better than Pepsi. It just is.
That's fine. We don't have to talk about it. But you don't have to be convinced that Taylor Swift is better or worse than Beyonce or Imagine Dragons, or, like, they all exist. They're all music. But I guess occasionally you need to be reminded, hey, go listen to Taylor Swift, or, oh, hey, here's a thing that you can pay money for Taylor Swift. I get that. I'm not saying that promotion isn't, but look at, like, the rise of Travis Kelce, right? Like, he was a good college football player at a medium-sized school who had injury and off-the-field issues, became an NFL player, wasn't drafted in the first round, drafted in the third round, was excellent, had his own dating show, like, reality TV show that lasted like 6 episodes.
I don't know who this person is that you're talking about.
Did you watch the Super Bowl this year?
This is not about Travis Kelce.
Anthony, you watched the Super Bowl this year, right? The Chiefs played the...
I watched.
You existed in the room in which a television
I was there.
On.
I was in a room.
So he was the best...
I had chili or something, I'm sure.
Yeah, he's the best receiver for the Chiefs, who, won the Super Bowl. So...
All right. Cool. Oof, that mustache is rough.
Yeah, the current mustache isn't great, but anyway, so he's had this slow rise.
I'm seeing these publicity photos though that Gary's talking about.
Yeah,
those are the first thing that showed up when I typed in his name.
He's had this rise.
Maybe that's it. Maybe it's just like, let's get football fans to buy tickets.
But again, football fans already know about Taylor Swift. She exists. You can't not know who she is. But this is a guy who has had this forward-facing thing. Like, him and his brother, who also plays football, he plays for the Eagles, started a podcast last season. It's now the biggest podcast. Like, it became the biggest podcast in sports over the course of the last calendar year. And over the course of the last calendar week, became the biggest podcast that exists, period. Because one of the two hosts is dating Taylor Swift. Travis Kelce got to host Saturday Night Live after they won the Super Bowl this year. Like, he's been on this slow rise as it is. Like, this is just the next inevitable step to me. So if this was a publicity stunt, I would assume that it was a Kelce-centric one, not a Taylor Swift-centric one. Because again,
I see.
There are hundreds of millions of people in this country who know that she exists. There are like 12 million people. No, sorry, that's not fair. There's like 30 million people in this country who know Travis Kelce exists before this weekend.
I'm just blown away by the Kelce angle here, but
to be fair, I didn't know who it was until this conversation. So
it is. It's kind of mutual. I think more if we're gonna do.
It could be mutual. It could be mutual.
But I do think she's the one with stuff coming out, and now she's on Fox in the middle of the afternoon, and it's not for like core Taylor Swift fans. Obviously, they're all going to go to the movie or whatever. But for their dads or their boyfriends or their brothers,
they were going anyway. Babe. They got to take their wife or their sister or their girlfend or their daughter to this concert anyway. Right?
They could like Taylor too.
I don't object to that. My point is, like, they already I guarantee you, there got to be less than 1% of this country who doesn't know who Taylor Swift is. That's my only point in this whole thing. Whereas there are many millions of people who don't know that the Kelseys exist. But also, who knows? Maybe they're in love. I mean, this has been a thing for a long...
Al, no, they're not.
I'm joking. No, but this has been a thing for a while, right? Like, he went to one of her concerts and, like, threw one of the friendship bracelets up on the stage for her and supposedly was, like, shut out from that for, like, a month. And then all of a sudden, like, a couple months later, they're dating. So, who knows?
What friendship? What do you mean?
So they do little bracelets.
Apparently, it's a thing. Like Swifties all like make these friendship bracelets and exchange them and all that stuff. And he made one and was front of the stage for one of her concerts and threw it onto the stage and said, "Call me." And then he like went on his podcast a week or two later saying, "Yeah, she didn't call me." And then they were dating a few months later.
This actually seems like a very elaborate publicity stunt.
It does.
Yeah, it is.
I just like I said,
they have the same agent. Oh,
which it's possible. I don't care enough to do the research to find out whether that's the case. But who knows? Maybe they both have CAA or something like that. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, now I will say to the point you were making, Gary, about it being a publicity stunt and all that. Like,
I'm sorry, I gotta pause for a second. I'm Googling straight up. Did Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift have the same, I was about to type agent and Google auto prefixed mother, and I don't know why it went there.
I mean, I sure hope not.
Oh, man.
But to your point, that you saw the video of the two of them after the game, like walking through the halls in the stadium or whatever.
Yes, to his getaway car.
Yes. So that was what Elle Duncan was going in on, saying, like, that was the most platonic walk I've ever seen in my life. She's like, if you look at how awkward that was, she's like, that man has never touched that woman.
No, they... I
was like, Jesus Christ, Elle, since when did you become a hot track artist?
She doesn't date athletes. Like, all of her boyfriends have been, like, British guys. Like, it would be, like, a soccer player, maybe, but, like...
She's dated other musicians and, like, actors and shit, whatever.
Yeah, not athletes, though. That's...
So maybe she's finally trying something different. All the other relationships haven't worked out for her.
Or she just wants it to look that way.
All I know is we've seen all the statistics of the Kelce podcast has gone through the roof. Travis's jersey sales have gone through the roof. But her concert tickets were already through the roof for the past, like, 18 months. That's my take on this whole thing.
Okay.
Insofar as I care, which I really don't, other than I found it kind of amusing. Just the whole, like, frenzy around the whole situation is kind of ridiculous, but yeah, whatever. I mean, who knows? If they're just doing this for publicity, more power to them. I really don't care. And who knows? Maybe we'll see a bunch of Kelce Swift.
I mean, they won, right? Because, like, even our lowly podcast is talking about it.
Yeah, which doesn't matter at all, but I guess whatever. Who cares?
Travis Kelce responds to Flix in the Six.
What are you drinking, Al?
Oh, I didn't have a second OJ, so I grabbed the only other cold beer that wasn't a show beer, and it's a Heineken Slim Can beer.
Amazing.
I don't know. That was the only thing that was there.
Fair. Cool. All right, we've got one more topic on this news and nuggets before I think we should move on to consumption. So Aquaman 2, Gary told me to watch the trailer before this episode started. Al, I believe you did the same.
Kind of.
This universe refuses to die. More on that later. I am beside myself that there are still movies coming out in this universe.
I am also beside yourself.
Nice.
I'll flank the other side of you.
It looks terrible. It sounds terrible. I do not have any concept as to what the movie's about.
It's about a Lost Kingdom.
Sure.
His brother's Orm's back, our favorite character, Orm.
Was he in the first one? He was.
Yes,
he was the main antagonist in the other one.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
and
they were.
You can call me.
Did he have a
master?
Did he have was there some sort of indication that he was having a kid in the end of the first one?
No, just Mira. He's in love with Mira.
Okay, who's not in this movie?
She is.
Okay,
I could have sworn
they just didn't show her. No, there's something where she has to be in the movie because she shot a certain amount of it or something. It would be too expensive to take her out, I think.
See, again, we were not watching the same trailer somehow, which I'm baffled by. But
she's not in the trailer. I think she is briefly in the trailer.
I do not believe that she was in the trailer that I watched.
Okay, but from everything I've heard, she is still in the movie.
Okay.
I'm sure they're going to curtail her role as much as possible.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But I don't know. Black Manta's back. I think he was one of the better things about the first Aquaman movie.
Sure.
It made $1 billion. The first Aquaman.
The movie made $1 billion.
It did. It was the second highest grossing DC movie or third highest grossing DC movie ever.
I had fun with the first one. It's just
the same.
With the universe itself dying and them rebooting it. It's just like, why are they still doing this?
They shot the movie, Al. They already shot the movie. It's
you know what though? They shot Batgirl 2, and that didn't get released.
Right.
And they shot the Flash, and that shouldn't have been released. So
hey.
Spoiler alert! Sorry.
Oh no. It does have to do, I think, a certain amount with. The first movie they got. It's James Wan back.
Yes.
And.
Yes.
I mean, he's a great director. He's a guy you want to have in-house, especially if you don't have like a Christopher Nolan anymore. They did cancel what was supposed to be the HBO show, The Deep. So they did want to have...
That wasn't a Boys spinoff?
No, or I think it's The Trench.
Trench, that's right. Well, because the Aquaman knockoff character in The Boys was called The Deep.
Yes.
Yeah. One of the more problematic characters in that problematic show. I love the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I do think it has. I mean, the first you have to make a sequel. You'd be so ridiculous not to.
Do you have to though?
With the people invested with Jason Momoa and Nicole Kidman, the queen of the movies, and James Wan. I mean, if the first one made $1 billion, that's how Hollywood works. Like,
yeah, that's true.
Sure. I mean, I will say of the things that you said that, like, I love watching Jason Momoa on screen. He is a treasure, but he's very funny, very charismatic. I love all of the characters that I've seen him play. He always seems like he's having a good time. Also seems like he lifts the people around him on set, which is great. It is the poor handling of the DC universe that I'm struggling with, and the fact that for every movie that we continue to put out in this godforsaken Snyderverse, the longer it lasts. I need it to be over.
I just want them to get on the same page finally.
But you know what though? They're supposedly about to, and I actually don't. It doesn't. It's not. I am not optimistic.
Yeah, I mean they got to prove it before I give them any trust or faith in that. So I'll probably see this movie, but.
Yes, on demand, several months later.
Just like this one.
But whoa! But
Al, you and I saw Aquaman in theaters together.
Oh yeah, we did see it together.
In your theater. Rest in peace.
Was that in my theater?
Yeah,
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
No, I meant this movie, The Flash, not this.
I got the whole Bielsi experience. We were a few minutes late to the movie. This guy.
I hate 20 minutes of commercials.
I hate how late we are with everything always. I talked about it last week. If you haven't listened to last week's episode, I talked about it. I bled in another continent for how late this family is for everything all the time.
I bled for you.
Yeah,
okay,
no,
but
I bled in
this.
Italy because we were late.
Wow.
The phrasing. Al and I trash talked to Aquaman for a minute, but to give you the floor for a second, Gary, it does seem like that maybe you are semi excited for the movie, so I'll give you a chance to talk about it.
Gary, you're a DC guy, right?
Yeah, the more episodes we do where I come on and they're only DC movies, it's just hard to it's just hard to hide. I realized this.
We did DC movies in The Irishman. Is that what we've done together?
Yes, and
wait, he was here for The Irishman? Fuck.
No, I wasn't on The Irishman.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely, I've never seen The Irishman.
Good.
That's probably a good move.
But it's a good trick that Marvel pulled with some of these movies where they took lesser characters and they made them. They actually the first half or they make good movies using the characters that they have, basically. So, I mean, but then when you think about it, when you're a little kid, you want to be Batman, you want to be Superman. I mean, before 2008, it's hard to tell how many kids were like, I want to be Iron Man or I want to be Thor. I mean, it's Spider-Man,
Batman, Superman,
I would say,
Spider-Man. Yeah.
is the best property that Marvel has, and it hasn't been theirs, I mean, before Far From Home and Homecoming and stuff like that for 15 years. But Yahya Abdul-Mateen as Manta is very good in the first movie. If they make it just more of a revenge movie and he's just kind of mugging the camera like evilly, and
you could have just stopped that sentence at Yahya Abdul-Mateen is good.
He is. And if they lean into that, and it's, I was getting a lot of Thor, Love and Thunder, and like kind of Black Panther 2 with the two worlds colliding. It kind of seems like they made a movie out of those two movies. I agree the first Aquaman is an insane movie that gives you epilepsy.
Ridiculous. Insane. It's an insane movie. But I have
in a lot about like what we're going to talk about later, I'm just glad it exists.
Jonathan Rhys Davies is a gigantic underwater crab king.
Yes.
That's all I have to say about that movie.
Yes, facts.
Okay, cool. Well, I mean, I'm not. I doubt. I mean, this comes out at the end of this year, so there's no shot in hell that I'm going to see it in theaters. Whatever. But I will watch it when it comes out on HBO eventually. I can't bring myself to just call it Max. It doesn't work for some reason.
I am kind of sort of come around on it. I will never call X. It's Twitter. But
yeah,
I don't even know what you're talking about.
You're the only person on the Zoom call who owns a Tesla. You don't get to be on the high horse about this.
Oh,
I love my car.
That's fine.
And the geniuses that made it. Not him.
Oh, come on, man.
Sure. The geniuses that made it.
Yeah. In a dungeon somewhere.
Anyway, but I will see that when I'll watch it on HBO when it comes out. I did the same. There's a whole bunch of like superhero movies in their universe that I've only watched on HBO, and the last two were. I mean, it was brutal. I watched what was the one with The Rock?
Black Adam.
Black Adam.
I still haven't watched
that. Was like it's like really, really, really bad.
Oh,
but entertaining.
Okay.
Okay, I was okay with I was able to watch it. I was watching it. I was having fun. I laughed at a few things, snorted at a few others, but like it wasn't a good movie. It was just like it was. I was able to sit through the whole thing. I put on the second Shazam movie, and I almost instantaneously fell asleep. And I don't usually fall asleep on movies, and like the first one was fine. I enjoyed the first one.
I liked the first one.
Yeah, but I don't know what was going on. I mean, maybe it was just that I'm wondering if it was me or if it was the movie, like the timing that I decided to start watching it. But I was completely disengaged for like 10 minutes in, and I fell asleep. And I was like, wow. But I woke up, I was like, I don't do that. That is very surprising. But anyway, Aquaman will be a made-for-TV movie for me.
It will be the highest budget streaming video on demand movie for you.
yeah, for sure. Well, that's not true. It was, I guess it wasn't Dune.
No, that was released in theaters.
The first one?
It was both.
Yeah, they did Day and Date with the...
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay, that's what it was.
I was saying, I definitely saw it in a movie theater on the day it came out.
Word.
With all the other cool people.
That's exactly right. Well, Anthony would have come in to see it too if he didn't have a child and all that fun stuff.
Yeah. Dune 2 was supposed to be my swan song.
I know. And instead it got pushed back until your child's going to be like 4 months old.
I know. Oh, man. Anyway. All right. I think that's it for news and nuggets. Let's do a little consumption. Maybe we'll try to keep it tight. And Al, you want to kick us off with what you're watching, what you've been watching?
Sure. Let's start off with it's perfect actually. Before you read us into that, we were talking Kevin Smith, and Anthony, I texted you the other night an extremely random reference from Clerks 3, And I was watching that night because it was Friday night. Got home, just me and the dogs, had dinner, and I was like, all right, what's on TV? And I was flipping around. I was like, oh, Clerks 3 starts in 15 minutes.
What was it on?
One of the movie channels, Stars, Showtime, something like that.
Cool.
And I was like, okay, I'll put that on then, and I'll watch it. And I did. And it was a movie, for sure.
Yeah, it's a movie.
The first act is almost like a prologue, which prologues shouldn't probably be 40 minutes long, but that's okay.
It definitely, the first act of that movie had me going, oh no, is it not going to be good?
Yeah, that was kind of what I was worried too. Or at least I was like, oh no, is it not going to be funny?
Yeah. But it pulls it together.
Yeah, no, Act 2 was basically what I expected from the movie. And Act 3 was bittersweet, and that's okay because it's probably
it had some depth.
Time for that particular storyline to be done, and I think it's just that was a story that Kevin Smith wanted to tell at this time. I think that story probably could have been done with Clerks too, but I don't object to this one being what it was. It was good. It was cool to get all the old faces, and the faces are old, back together. And I don't know, it was interesting. There is a call and response in that movie, first act to third act, that it transcends Chekhov's to the point of being almost a bit cliche, I guess, or redundant. But the way that they went about and did all of that, I don't want to say too much in case anyone hasn't seen it who wants to see it and all that. But I don't have a problem big picture with where it all went. I will say that there is something that seems kind of crucial in the turn from Act 1 to Act 2 that is completely and irrevocably undone by Act 3. Namely,
we'll do that movie at some point.
Okay.
I think it's worth it because, as you know, I love all of his stuff, so I'd be happy to do it. I will say with his movies, like Clerks, I feel like has always been the one that very closely mirrors like things that have happened in his life or reflect time periods of like his actual experiences.
Sure.
Obviously, there's a big deal with that in this one, and there's always something to me that set Clerks apart from the other ones. I don't know if it's just that Clerks was his first, and like so that there's like a certain care that series gets. I love those movies. I really, really enjoy aspects of it as they relate to my experience working at a pizzeria. Like, there's just like certain things about it that it just like hit home like really well. I love all of the movies of his that I've seen, but I love Clerks, and Clerks 2 was just an incredible comedy, like layered on top of that. This third one is so different than the other two in so many ways that it took a while for it to get its footing for me. But that being said, I did get to see it in the tour. So like when the last couple movies that he did, rather than release them like directly to theaters, or like it might have a limited run in some theaters, but he'll do an event where you can buy a ticket and you can go see the movie with a whole bunch of people that actually want to be there, and respect the process of watching a movie. And like, it's not a bunch of fools, and you'll pack a whole show and you'll watch the whole movie, and then he'll come up on stage and he'll do a Q&A, and it'll last another 3 hours. And it's just like a really wonderful, fun night out. And it's like just an incredible way to watch a movie and like be around people that enjoy movies. And I got to do that for this one. I got to do it for Yoga Hosers, and it was just like, it's really fun. And it was really exciting to see, the third and like final Clerks movie that way. Just being a fan of his work, and also to see it in Jersey, was kind of great.
I did like the movie. It was just,
it sounds like you didn't like the movie, Al.
No, I did. I liked the movie. I wanted to like it more than I did.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I really appreciated the middle third of that movie. I really enjoyed it. I think they did a good job of balancing the nostalgia with like trying to tread some new ground.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked all that. I'm not a View Askew scholar, but even I caught 80% of the callbacks and references to all of it. And I had a lot of laughs, and they still did a good job of imbuing it with the heart that they wanted for this movie. It's just that the ending itself doesn't work with something that happened earlier in the script is my major objection. And actually kind of a weird parallel to the movie we did last week where it felt like they had so much they wanted to get to, they didn't know how to start the movie, I think was kind of the thing.
Lord of the Rings beginning.
Lord of the Rings beginning is a great way. We kind of coined that term last week. But no, it's a good movie and it's a fitting end to it.
Or you could say they're Dune in it.
Well, 84 Dune, because I think the new Dune did a better job of that, actually.
They 84 to the beginning?
Yes, they 84 to the beginning. No, and I really liked the sign-off in the movie theater scene. The final line in that scene was really... I don't have the same emotional attachment you did, but I even kind of got...
I'm not crying. You're crying.
Yeah, I got a little emotional with that line.
Yeah,
I trust the director. That was really cool.
Yeah.
So I did like it. I just more so. What's that?
I'm excited to watch it again because I went into it the first time. I've only seen it the one time, and I went into it thinking like, okay, I'm watching the third Clerks movie, but like, I didn't give it enough space to stand on its own. Mm-hmm. And I think that if I watch it a second time, knowing what I'm getting into, I think I'll be able to appreciate more of it.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike the second Clerks movie, where I was like, how are you doing this? I am rolling this entire time laughing. Like, it was just so stupid and funny.
I actually need to go rewatch the first one, because I watched it one time, and I don't think I was in ideal viewing conditions, because I didn't really love it.
Sure.
But I
would love to watch the first one with you.
I really enjoyed the second one.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I'm glad you got to watch it, and I think we should. Do it soon. Gary, you haven't seen it?
I have not seen Clerks. I don't know. I did see Jay and Silent Bob reboot, and that was just the biggest piece of shit I've ever seen in my life.
That movie was so.
Wait, hang on a second.
That movie was awful.
Hang on a second, Gary. Like, so how many of the Kevin Smith movies have you seen?
Dogma.
I'm going with not enough to appreciate
Chasing Amy. I've seen Yoga Hosers for some reason. And that might actually be...
So, that movie's definitely not for you. Bob.
No, it's not. It's definitely not. I don't know, man.
Because, like, Anthony adores those movies. My cousin Mike, hey Mike, and his brother Dennis, my other cousin, like, I think they like adore those movies.
Yes, all the people from New Jersey.
No, they're all from New York. They lived in New York their whole life. But yes. I have seen all the movies, and I like half of them. I love a couple of them. And, like, so I enjoyed Reboot, but I didn't love it. There's no way, if you haven't seen the movies, whether or not you like the ones you saw, like if you haven't seen like all of them, like, it's just not gonna be for you. It's so self-referential.
Yeah, it's so weird. Rebooted was like just an homage to all of the movies, and 3 was an homage to the first 2 Clerks. Like, it's like I feel like he's definitely getting into a very sentimental.
In particular, the first one. It's really, I thought it did a good job of capturing the first one in that way.
I think it's where, Gary, I feel if you were to start with this catalog from the beginning and engage with it, I do think you would probably really enjoy it.
Yeah, it's definitely an itch that I've always wanted to scratch. I do have... I mean, that's part of my problem with... I love Kevin Smith. Like, I think he's like, he knows a lot about movies, and I think he's a big DC guy. That's like one of the problems that I've had, too.
His daughter's named Harley Quinn.
We don't need to get into that. But I've always wanted for him to let him cook, to let Kevin Smith cook. Like, I've always wanted to see maybe like what he would do with Green Lantern or Batman or something like that.
Instead, all he got was Blunt Man Chronic and Cockknocker.
So I don't know. It's funny how the studios now take these guys who make one horror movie for $12 that makes $50 million. But Kevin Smith was like, paving some of the way for independent film in the 90s. but he never. He had the famous story with John Peters, but he never really got an actual shot at making a superhero movie.
Sure.
Well, he also squandered it on Cop Out, though.
That's not his fault. Let's not blame him for that.
It's at least a little bit his fault.
It's Bruce Willis's fault.
I know. I'm not saying it's the most his fault, but like he's a part of the story.
That's true. We get it.
Oh, cool. Anyway, glad you got to see. What else are you consuming, Al?
Gary, do you want to do one, or figure we can go in a rotation?
Yeah, man. This is fucking Kevin Smith, man, and I'm here. I watched the Batman again last night, dude, and nice. I just fucking. I shit my pants and I pissed and I cried.
Did you record yourself crying after watching
it? I fucking love this movie, man.
Wait, did Kevin Smith cry after watching the Batman?
No, it's just he does. He'll do like a post of his face, like post movies, like that he's watched. That's funny.
It's usually after, or he does his Fat Man Beyond or whatever podcast where he'll talk about Guardians of the Galaxy for 3 hours and like just be like. This is the best movie I've ever fucking seen in my life.
You know what? I think that is what's so charming. Is like this the pure love of movies. Like I can get behind that.
He's light side of the Force, Quentin Tarantino.
So yeah, I actually did rewatch the Batman to kind of like just to dip my toes kind of into the Halloween season.
Sure, that's a smart move. I should fire that one up.
And, it's still great, man. It's still, I love every minute. I love the beginning where the monologue where he talks about, all the criminals out in the streets and he can't be there for every one of them, but they all think that he's there.
Mm-hmm.
The third act, it is a very long movie. It's a complete film. And I do think because, you don't know if you're going to get a second one. So I'm just happy that we got the film that we got and they did get their big third act, fight. That's just, I'm just happy to revisit that. And I love the Batman. I'm very excited for the sequel. And another thing is I watched Winning Time, basically from start to finish. I would watch every Sunday night. They got all these great actors together. Adrian Brody, and
so you're damned if you do and damned if you don't, because you didn't get to watch Why the Last Man got canceled, but you did watch Winning Time, and it did get canceled. And I'm just, it's not spoiled. You can't spoil it because it all happened in real life. So basically, I was watching what was supposed to be the season finale. I heard it was shortened to 7 episodes. I don't know what that was based on exactly, if they couldn't promote it or if that's what they shot, what they got out of it. And it was very interesting how they would do it. So like season 1 is just about the 79 to 80 season. It's about Magic Johnson getting drafted and them winning the world championship. And it's amazing. It's a great show. And then in season 2, they pretty much skip like 4 years. Like they do dip, like, the first couple episodes, like it is just kind of following the championship, what happened, the coaching. There's a whole Larry Bird episode that's fantastic. And then basically it's 1984 already and they're playing the Celtics and they've already won like a second championship and lost to the Sixers in the final. And it was a good season. I enjoyed the season. They really let Adrian Brody cook a lot as Pat Riley. It was a great depiction. Every Sunday night I knew it was going to be there for me and I was going to maybe not learn a little bit, but kind of see a depiction of how things were in the 80s and how the Lakers like became this great team. And then I listened to the podcast too, the Winning Time HBO like sponsored podcast. And Jeannie Buss was on the episode before the finale. Wait, she actually went on the podcast?
She went on the podcast
because I heard she broke ranks because like pretty much everyone, like Pat Riley was kind of like, yeah, that's a show that exists, and Jerry West was pissed because they made the entire show about how Jerry West is always pissed.
Yeah,
And
he sued
Jeannie
the
Buss
show.
is the only one who like actually seemed to have liked the show because like John C. Reilly reminded her of how much she loved her dad or whatever, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, so that's part of the narrative now. I don't know how. I think that's true, and they let Jay Moore. Jay Moore was in like the second to last episode, pretty much, and he's now her husband. Somehow.
Yeah, that's super weird too.
That's the weirdest thing in the world. That this guy, this bit player from Saturday Night Live, the other guy in Jerry Maguire, is now married to the owner of the Lakers. Like this guy won the lottery in life. That's a separate thing.
I always think of him as the douchebag from Small Soldiers.
Sure, yeah, him and David Cross. We love David Cross. An excellent film.
I think my favorite part of that journey was trying to piece together who you were talking about, and then Al pulling Small Soldiers out of his ass for it to really make it like fully solidified.
The compass for movie knowledge, Small Soldiers.
Amazing.
So I saw all this kind of weird stuff going on. And I was like, oh, this is kind of weird, whatever. And then it gets to like maybe the last 10 minutes of the show, and it just kind of starts doing this thing where Jerry Buss, John C. Reilly would start talking to Jeannie, and it was like really turning her into like the hero for the show or whatever, kind of, and like pivoting. And just being like, well, Jeannie Bean, one day maybe you'll be the owner of the Lakers and it'll be pretty cool. And I'm just like, oh no, what's going on?
Did they do one of those rushed, weird, awkward montage finale things?
Because, yes, they did, dude. That's what I'm getting to. So in 1984, they lose to the Celtics in the final. It shows Magic Johnson like crying in the showers after losing. And then after that is all the Jerry Buss, like, we're going to be, you know what? I think we're going to go on to win some of these here championships against the Celtics. And then it does a stupid montage where it's like Pat Riley went on to be the coach of the Knicks and the Heat, and he won with Dwayne Wade and Jerry Buss and then this stuff too. And it's like, oh no, they canceled it. And then I go to Twitter. And I go and it's like winning time canceled after 2 seasons. And I was like, it's really like a property you could have gotten a lot of mileage out of.
You knew it was going to be bad when, like, the first 3 weeks of the show, Jeff Pearlman was out there tweeting every night saying, please watch my show.
Yeah, no, he was. And
Jeff Pearlman was the guy who wrote the book that the show is based on. I never actually got around to watch the show, so maybe I'm the problem. But I wanted to watch the show. It sounded like it was great. It's Adam McKay. It's the Lakers of the 80s, which is a ridiculous situation. But the idea of canceling a show called Winning Time about the Lakers on a championship in which they lost, they're like a quarter through the source material in the book that the show is based on. Is pretty incredible.
It's so bizarre. You could have done Kobe and Shaq. I mean, you could have done LeBron in the bubble making what's the Bugs Bunny movie?
Space Jam 2.
Space Jam 2.
What's the Bugs Bunny movie?
you know what I mean. Yeah, and especially with the talent, like the talent was there. Like I got to watch like Adrian Brody like just yell at people with slicked back hair and smoke cigarettes. Like what better show is there than that? Like exactly. I don't.
Where's Boyle's Apple?
They had Wood Harris as one of the Lakers players in season 1, like being addicted to crack cocaine. Like
wait, what?
Yeah.
Who was Wood Harris playing?
I'm drawing a blank on the player's name right now.
Because they're 15 years too early for Lamar Odom.
Yes, it was not him, but it was a different player that the Lakers traded for like mid-season, and he was like helping the team. Yeah, he was addicted to drugs during his tenure, but he was playing, well enough that it didn't hurt the team. And then the coach went to bench him like during the playoffs or something, and he like he tried to hire a hitman to kill the coach.
Oh Jesus!
And like in very big Adam McKay
Wait, how did the show get canceled again?
I have no idea. Just go and watch it, man. Go back and write a letter to HBO. Like it was done so well. I think. I mean,
dear David Zaslav. First of all, fuck you. Second of all, how dare you cancel Winning Time?
Yeah.
Third of all, that's enough reason to say fuck you to begin with, but there are so many other more important things as well.
And I'm sure you saw from some of the stills, like these guys look just like Magic Johnson. The Kareem guy looks just like Kareem.
Very well casted.
It was just so well done, and to see it just like, see them pull the cord.
I mean, people were complaining about Brody being casted as Riley. I thought that was a fantastic casting.
He looks just like it. I don't know. Yeah.
Oh.
So that was.
I have no. I'm sorry that your show was canceled. It's a bummer when you see.
Sorry, this has been a very sports heavy episode, Anthony.
That's fine. I'm for it. That sucks though, especially if you're into it. Oh man, I'm up. Let me just try. I have a series of things here to pick. So I mentioned it before, but Yellowstone. Kim and I decided we needed a new show to start, and we're like, we have access to Peacock for right now, so like let's give it a go because it was there.
When in doubt, watch the Paramount hit on Peacock.
That's right. So we watched the first episode. Kim fell asleep, and I was like, in the last 20 minutes of the 4-day first episode, it felt like a very long pilot, but I was like, where is this going? And then the last 20 minutes, I was like, it just got out of hand and out of control. I was like, what is this show that I'm about to watch? And I was like, I'm all in. And then I explained to her what happened at the end, and we continued watching it. And then we proceeded to burn through all 5 seasons that are available.
Wait, you knew what the show was going into. I told you when they talked about it on Fullcast.
You did.
It's Unplanned Ranch Murder the show. That's what the show is.
Unplanned Ranch Murder the show. I will say that this whole time, in my mind, I had a theory on what the time frame of the show was going to be, not modern times. I thought it was older West. Yeah. And I was like, what is this thing?
Present day Wyoming.
It gets out of hand and fast. It gets out of hand fast, and then it goes into weird places, and then it's I'm pretty sure their goal is to jump the shark as much as possible. And
I've watched 15% of that show because my parents watch it, and I will walk in when they're watching. So I've caught parts of it. I know bits of the storylines, whatever. If they didn't jump the shark already when the guy from Good Will Hunting threw a rattlesnake at someone as a distraction, to then kill that person. If that wasn't the jumping the shark moment,
no, that was a jumping the shark moment.
There wasn't a jumping the shark moment; it was the throwing the snake moment. I got it, but still,
yeah, it's there's a number of them. I will say, it was it goes. It's they do some pretty ridiculous things in that show, just completely out of we're doing that at this random mid-season episode. What is going on? It took me by surprise a number of times, but then also they'll do some really really dark shit.
Yeah.
And really uncomfortable stuff. And I'm like, this is I don't really know. I don't really know what the show is. I'm uncomfortable, and I'm gonna watch the rest of it. And that's pretty much how I got through the whole thing. And now we're up to date. I've definitely I watched too much of it all at once. I'm tired of it, so it's probably good that we caught up and that we're done for now. But I guess I'll watch whatever the rest of the season is that we're on. I think it's a mid-season finale that we watched.
You're done until it resumes 2 weeks from now.
Oh God, is it coming back already?
It's pretty soon.
I might wait until it's done.
I know it's pretty soon because my mom asked me oh, do we have it set up to record? I was like, I don't know. You tell me what it's going to be on, and I'll set up to record for you.
There are some fun things that go on. I very much enjoy there's time, like there's periods of episodes where we spend with like the workers on the ranch and like what their lifestyle is like, and that those episodes are fun, and like they're just like kind of going day to day, doing their jobs, having a good time. I can't stand a number of the core family members. That seems
pretty much
to be
all
like,
of them, I think.
Pretty much all of them, except for with the exception of one. I hate them all. I'm not about
Wes Bentley plays a classic Wes Bentley character.
I'm really tired of the show that is like, oh yeah, everybody sucks. It's like, yeah, but like, does everybody have to suck? Like it's kind of tired at this point.
The one son who's married to the Native American woman, he's okay sometimes.
Yeah, he's good. His character has depth.
Yeah, I mean he's a bit whiny, but he's okay sometimes.
I don't know that he's necessarily. I wouldn't call him whiny. I think he has he's been through more than any of the other characters.
You can have an excuse to whine and still be whiny.
I don't think, but he does. I don't think he is that whiny. I think he's a little bit.
I've watched like 15% of the show, so
disconnected. But anyway, it's fun. It was we enjoyed our time, but I'm done with that for now. So we'll catch back up. Al, back to you.
Sure. Do a quick one. Last weekend, not this past weekend, the weekend before, Craft Beer Fest.
Last night, but the night before, the lemon and a pickle came knocking on my door.
Oh my god! week and a half ago, Hudson Valley Craft Beer Festival, one of my favorite events every year. I've gone to probably like 6 of the last 8 of them or something like that. Non-pandemic year excluded, obviously. I love it so much. It's great. It's a beautiful day outside on the river. It's beers, nice. So many beers, cigars, beef jerky, delicious food. You know what I had for the first time there? I try and do a different food truck every year because most of them come back the same ones year after year, but there's other ones that come in and out. The only one I think that was there, that's been there every year since the first time I went, is there's like this Caribbean or Jamaican like type of food truck. I walk past it every year. It smells delicious, and I've always been too intimidated to go get it. I went and got some goddamn Caribbean food. It was delicious. I had curry goat.
Nice.
With like rice and beans and some sort of plantain side dish thing.
Awesome.
Just delightful. Fucking fantastic. And like so many good beers.
For you.
Hand-rolled cigars. Like homemade jerkies. Fantastic day. Beautiful.
Jerky as far as the eye can see.
There was like 25 jerkies. And like I feel like every year I go, it's always basically the same weekend in September. It's always 95 degrees somehow. It was like 76 degrees and sunny. Gorgeous day on the river. Loved it. Fantastic. Beautiful.
All before it started raining perpetually for
yeah, no, this was well before the tropical storm, thankfully. So no.
Nice.
So good.
Cool. That's awesome. I'm glad you got to enjoy that. Gary, what else you consuming? Movies and or otherwise?
That was my main corner there, just winning time. There was a Jack Nicholson like lookalike that they had in the crowd during some of the games. It was really good. They put like the sunglasses on him. It was fantastic. I don't know. I am more just looking forward to things. I really want to rewatch The Shining this year. For Halloween, because I haven't watched it in a couple of years now. I'm just excited to get into spooky movie season, really. Okay. The Exorcist, I guess. I don't know. That's coming out.
Yeah, no one.
What is it, a sequel, a prequel, a
Legacy
remake?
Sequel.
Legacy sequel.
So the girl from the Selma Blair is going to be in it for 15 minutes, basically.
Sure.
And she's going to be like, I was the Exorcist 40 years ago. And they're going to be like, oh no, the Exorcist is happening again, though.
Was that her name? Why do I feel like Selma Blair was someone else?
Linda
Blair.
Linda Blair, yes.
Yeah.
Selma Blair was from Hellboy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, never mind. Linda Blair.
I was like, that doesn't seem right.
That's true. The angry tweets and comments.
Yes, exactly. So many.
There's
dozens of them.
You had mentioned The Shining. Is that an every year go to, or is there are there any particular movies that you watch every year around this time?
I'm not a huge ghost movie guy. Slashers really are like my main thing.
Okay.
I would say.
Okay.
And there's no Halloween movie this year, and they haven't done.
Did they finish that within the last 3 years? They did
bro, you didn't. Come
3
on,
in a row.
Halloween
Right?
Ends. It was amazing.
Was it?
I loved it. It's okay.
Nice.
Anthony
It's better
watched
than
one
Halloween
of them, 2 years
Kills.
ago.
I
That's the one. I think that's the one he watched.
Kills. I've watched the first of the 3 new ones.
Okay.
Wasn't it just called Halloween, confusingly?
Yes.
And it was Halloween 2?
Yes.
Got it.
I do. I don't know. I sneak
not to be confused with Halloween 2.
Absolutely not.
Or Halloween 2.
Halloween also.
Or Rob Zombie's Halloween 2.
Yeah. One of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life.
What about Halloween H2O?
I do want to sneak, like, the Rob Zombie ones. I think actually did they game. I like that he made a choice. Pretty much. I mean, they are like, gross, like grubby little movies, and there's swearing, and it's not a good universe. But I mean,
I think the first Rob Zombie Halloween is my favorite one.
Are we back to talking about Kevin Smith?
I fucking love Halloween, man. These
movies, gross, grubby-looking movies with too much cursing.
This Danny McBride, he knows how to make a scary movie, dude. Like, but yeah, but going back to The Shining, just it's one of those where I saw like way too early. I think a lot of people have this experience where their parents were like, "Oh, watch The Shining" when they were like 11 or 12 or whatever. And they're just like traumatized from that.
Sure.
And it's, I don't know. I'm just weirdly drawn. I really want to rewatch it. I still haven't seen Dr. Sleep.
I love Dr. Sleep.
I didn't see Evil Dead Rise. That came out. What was that, over the summer?
I think so.
Spring. So yeah, there's nice. Just ones I want to get to this year to. I feel like I'm more planning it out this year as opposed to like, well, I'll just put on AMC because I don't have cable anymore, and whatever's on AMC, whatever. I'll look it up. What I like to do is
doesn't AMC do a big Halloween month?
They do
movies,
like all month basically. So what I would do is I would see what's playing on AMC, but then I would try to find like the actual non-TV version and try to watch that version instead. Basically, nice. But it would inspire me. Basically to what I would want to watch.
Amazing. That I'm excited for you to watch Dr. Sleep for the first time. I really thoroughly enjoyed that movie, and I don't care for The Shining. But
it's incredible how much you liked it, considering how much you didn't like The Shining.
Yeah, it was so good. We could do this really quick, and if you care about this, you can skip ahead. I can't imagine you do if you're listening to this and we're getting into this and you haven't seen it already. But Halloween Ends. How does Halloween Ends?
Oh yeah, okay. So basically, it's the same thing again. So Laurie tricks Michael into coming into the house that she's in.
Sure.
And they have a bit of a tussle. And with her like granddaughter, they pin Michael down. It's much more about the journey than it is the destination of Halloween Ends. I do want to say this.
That's fair.
Because it's a very interesting opening where they take like someone who's just from Haddonfield who does an accidental murder on Halloween night because he's afraid of Michael, or a kid kind of scares him or whatever.
He does an accidental murder.
Yeah, like the kid kind of like jumps out at him and he like throws him off a staircase.
As you do.
So the movie is this guy like helping Michael basically. He finds him in the sewer, which is really insane. We don't have enough time for this.
That's fine.
But they put him in like the whole town gets together and they put Michael in a big meat grinder at like at a scrap metal yard.
Okay.
They incinerate. They put the body in a big metal wood chipper thing, And like it's really good. The sheriff shows up. He's like, "Tonight there are no laws. We gotta put this guy in a wood chipper."
Amazing. Does his spirit go into somebody else or some bullshit?
I wish it did. It does for most of the movie, and then they killed the kid. That's the copycat.
Hey, I'm very confused how I made this connection before it happened.
I've been trying to come up with a list. So it's part The Thing, part Fargo, and is there anything else I'm missing here?
I just encourage you to watch the movie and maybe make more connections of your own.
Boy.
Sure.
But Halloween Kills has really good kills in it.
As one would.
It's a terrible movie, but the set pieces and the actual murders are very good. Like when the girl has the gun and he like kind of knocks her into shooting herself.
Oh.
But Halloween Ends is like, it's really good because they ran out of ideas, so they're just doing something. And I'm like, you're doing something, huh?
I love when they do something.
I love when they do things with the movies.
I'm like, this is not what I thought.
Does Laurie's daughter get killed?
She dies in Halloween Kills.
Okay. How did was it the first one of this new trilogy where they locked him in the basement and set the house on fire?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the one that I saw.
The firefighters show up and he murders all the firefighters. It's a very good set piece. He uses like a saw, like a Jaws of Life thing, and just fucking... The Halloween Kills has very good kills in it. It's a terrible, awful movie.
Amazing. Well, I'm glad that it was there for you to watch.
Thank you.
And I hope you enjoy the rest of this Halloween season. I'm going to two funnier ones that I've been watching. We haven't had like a comedy show that we've gotten into in a long time. So we decided to throw on, again, with access to Peacock, we decided to throw on Modern Family. Never had seen it before. Laugh out loud funny from the first episode. I thought it was going to take a while for me to get into it. We're loving it right off the bat. Very, very entertaining. And on a similar family note, Elio is like super into the I Am Groot shorts. There's 2 seasons of them on Disney Plus. They are very, very silly. And I've seen each of them at least 40 times.
That sounds right for a kid.
Yeah.
Okay. So on Sunday, I watched a disgusting football game. And I mean that in all definitions of the word, because I was at the Jets-Patriots football game.
Oh, no.
Amidst the tropical storm that was rolling slowly up the coast. Because we bought those tickets for entirely too much money like 5 weeks ago. And, once you own the tickets, you're just going to go to the game. And it's fine because it was a big group. It was 7 of us. It was truly a motley crew. It was me, my dad, my brother, one of my brother's friend, Brian, his dad, one of my uncles, and my friend Alex, Gary's friend Alex. And the 7 of us went. We got there nice and early, did some tailgating, crushed some beers and breakfast sandwiches in the parking lot. Just got so much rain. Watched just terrible, awful football because both those teams aren't very good, and both their quarterbacks are bad. And it was raining, which doesn't make it any better. And it was just awful, gross, terrible. But I'd do it again. It was fantastic. It was a good time.
And I'd do it again.
No, it was a good time. I mean, you got a bunch of people together who are just a bunch of bros hanging out and doing football stuff. It was a good time. So much rain.
On the rain note, we also ventured out into the rain Saturday evening to see Ben Schwartz and friends at Radio City Music Hall doing a long form improv show, and it was fantastic.
Wow.
So funny. And just if you've never seen one of those types of shows before, really entertaining how they pull it together with zero content to work with except for some prompts that they give the audience. They pull the story together and then they just go for they went for like 80 straight minutes and we're able to piece together this. It was so funny. And it'll never happen again. And that's my favorite part of that type of thing. It's just it's the one time they do it and then it's gone. because the prompts are never going to be the same again. I guarantee you that.
Oh, so you just mean like there's no ability to recreate that specific shot.
Can't do it. Yeah. Very, very funny. I would try to explain some of the funnier bits, but the setup would just take too long and probably make it sound like I'm on acid.
Oh, fun.
It's just like if you've ever seen one, just imagine trying to explain an improv show.
That's true. That's fair.
It's not going to work. The one highlight I will mention is that on more than one occasion, one of the members of the crew like broke out into a Casey and JoJo song to prompt for the rest of the scene being romantic, and it was
okay.
It was good.
Right
on. Anybody have anything else they're consuming?
Starfield.
Oh, nice! You started it.
I did. More on that later. Starfield. I've been playing it. I've probably only gotten about 15 hours, which is to say I've done nothing in that game, relatively speaking. And it's part of what makes the experience so incredible, because I've been talking to like two people, Brian and not Brian Rooney, my friend Brian, and a customer at work are the only two people I know in real life who are actively playing the game. And all three of us have played a similar amount of time. I would say the two of them have probably played a couple more hours than me, but like not like materially more, like 3 or 5-ish more hours. And all three of us have had a wildly different experience to start the game off so far. Like just like what we've done and all that. And like definitely like I have been, especially the first couple times I turned it on, like way too conservative and just like what I was going about. Like I had like FOMO, like I didn't want to skip past something and miss out or whatever. And so I spent like so much time just running around and talking to people and like acquiring jobs. I have like 8 jobs now. And like I spent so long running around like the first main hub that you go to, that's like kind of like the impetus for the whole story to happen. That I basically like did everything you could do there for now. Like I'm sure more things will crop up later on once I return. But I spent so long doing that like by the time I moved on to the next phase of story I was doing, I was like, okay, I've accumulated like 40 side quests, and like one like the main quest is now like started. And I was like, let me go do the first mission of the main quest, and then I'll go off and see what the universe has to say for itself. And I forgot how to do combat. I'd spent so much time running around just talking to people, and really struggled with all that. It's fun, and there's some really cool shit, and just like the level of like optionality, like the things that you can do, really is incredible. Where I was like, some random person was like, I joined the Bounty Hunters Guild, basically. The Trackers Alliance is what they call themselves. And I talked to one of their agents, and she's like, yeah, no, like we'll have regular bounty jobs, but like if you want to do something off the books, like the one that got away, I need you to put up something to like go find this person for me. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I jetpacked my way to climb this huge tower, and I placed a sensor, and it's like, okay, go back and talk to her and let her know you did it. I was like, all right, cool. But before I do that, like 100 yards that way, there's just a ship. Let me go see what that's all about. So I jetpacked my way over there. I walked over. I was like, are these people going to shoot me? Are they going to ask for help? What's going to happen? So I walked up. They're like, hey, can you help me? I was like, sure, why not? You seem fine. Our ship, we were attacked by pirates. We crash landed. We need some ship parts to fix the ship. Do you have any? I said, I sure do. I couldn't give them to them for some reason. I was like, okay, never mind. Maybe later. I was like, let me go see if I can get into your ship. I was able to pick the lock on the ship, go in, stole a bunch of stuff from them, and then I stole the ship and flew away.
I stole their stuff, I sold it back to them, and then I took their ship.
No, I kept the stuff and I stole the ship. And I was like, oh, I just more was like, oh, this is what people have talked about. Like you can just go, if you hop in the cockpit and like get into the seat. If like there's a couple of specific ships you're not allowed to steal, but this probably is one of those because it's right outside of one of the main hub areas. I can see the hub. That's right cool. There. And it's letting me fly away. I guess this is mine now. Experiment completed. I now know what it means to steal a ship, but I felt bad because they seemed fine. They seemed like
fun. We got pirated again.
Yeah, I didn't feel good about myself, but you know what? Sometimes that's what happens. So, yeah, we'll check back in somewhere down the line because it's football season. So I basically have like 2 to 3 hours to play at a time. And there are people who've already played 200 hours of this game and New Game Plused it 10 times, which is just incredible because I will say...
downloaded it.
Okay.
Slightest bit of spoiler, but they've designed the game where when you finish it, there's a New Game Plus, and when you do it, somehow it's a bit different every time, and that's all I'm going to say.
Cool.
Yeah.
Neat. Gary, do you play games? Are you...
Yes, but I'm too intimidated to ever actually play Starfield. I'm like, I can't
I'm currently playing it, and I'm still actively intimidated by it.
I'm like, oh no, what am I going to do? There's options for things. The combat seems cool. The flying seems cool. But, I don't know. I never played any of those Fallouts or the Bethesda games, really, so...
Was never a fan of them, but I finally gave this one a chance because I like space.
All right.
I like space.
I do.
Very cool. Well, I'm sure there's more consumption that we can go through, but I am looking at the clock, and we are about 2.5 hours into this episode, so I'm going to say that it is time to get into our flick of the week. The Flash, rated PG-13, released June 16th, 2023, with a 2-hour and 24-minute runtime. Your call sheet synopsis. When his attempt to save his family inadvertently alters the future, Barry Allen becomes trapped in a reality in which General Zod has returned and there are no superheroes to turn to. In order to save the world that he is in and return to the future that he knows, Barry's only hope is to race for his life, but will making the ultimate sacrifice be enough to reset the universe? I didn't know that synopsises would normally end in question.
Also, that was such a long synopsis, although fairly accurate. This is the IMDb. This is the IMDb one. Barry Allen uses his super speed to change the past, but his attempt to save his family creates a world without superheroes, forcing him to race for his life in order to save the future.
Okay. Fairly. Mine has more details in it. I feel like more like actual like story beats, even if some of them feel slightly inaccurate.
There is an art to a synopsis.
Yeah.
You want enough detail to effectively convey what the movie's about, but you don't want it to be a whole paragraph.
You don't want to give too much either. Yeah. Al, why don't you give us your Toot-length review?
First, a caveat. I wrote this 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
It would have been more funny and timely at that time, but I'm going to stick with it.
Nice.
Fair enough. It's all relative.
On Friday night, I had the option of spending 2 to 3 hours kicking off my early access to Starfield or watching this movie. I chose poorly. 4.5 out of 10.
Wow. Okay. Rough. Brutal. Gary, what about you?
All right. Let's see, you guys. You know, I do it off the dome here. So
I do know that.
The DCEU ends in a flash in a very exciting and very exciting experiment into what a superhero movie can be, including old faces. That being Michael Keaton. That's not part of the tweet.
Parenthetically, Michael Keaton.
Amazing.
Not part of tweet.
Not part of...
I'm the vulture, I think.
What?
I don't
know. What's your score out of 10?
I'm going to give this an 8.
Wow. Okay. All right. The best the Snyderverse has to offer comes from Andy Muschietti. But for the love of Grodd, let it die. 6 out of 10.
Nice.
I had fun with it. I really like The Flash. I've always been a fan of The Flash. I used to watch the TV show when I was a kid. I don't know if they were reruns or actually aired, but
the Mark Hamill one.
I don't remember who was in it except for the dad from the CW show was the Flash in that show.
Okay, really? Yeah, that's that one.
Okay. But I used to watch that. I loved The Flash then. I really, really enjoy the CW show. I'm not done with it. I have the final season to still get through. It's cheesy as all hell, but it's fun. I just love the character. I think that they did as good as a job as they could have while being trapped in this universe. I did think they did some really fun things especially with bringing Keaton back in. And obviously we all know here how much I love Michael Keaton's Batman. So that was wonderful to see. It's just over. It's just done.
Is it though? Because we still have that Aquaman.
We need to move on.
Well,
that's the thing, right? This was supposed to be like the end / soft reboot of all of that, but Aquaman is still coming out.
Yes.
So what does it mean? Nothing. I mean, everything is meaningless.
So my big picture takeaway on this movie is there was times during it where, like, after a scene or a sequence was done, where I was like, oh, that could have been part of a really good movie. It's just not this movie. Like, there was some cool ideas. There's some cool sequences. I liked some of what they wanted to do in this. And it was straining at the seams so much so that, like, I don't know how you could stitch it together into a whole that would make sense. It's just like there were things about it that I really wanted to like. There were times where I was like, oh yeah, that was cool, or that was pretty funny. Awesome. Yeah. And just as far as it fitting within like a larger whole, it just didn't work for me, like, pretty much at all, unfortunately. It still has really concerning CGI at times.
So bad.
The two Barrys thing, it worked in some scenes, it didn't work in other scenes. I wanted to like the interplay, and there was definitely moments, plenty of them. There's the whole Ezra Miller of it all to begin with. Like, why this is the movie they sunk so much into, and, like, frankly, burned a lot of James Gunn's credibility. I feel like on something that's that, like, he wasn't even directly a part of. Like, I don't know why he sold out that way, and I don't even usually like throwing around that term. But the whole "this is the greatest hero movie I've ever seen," like, you didn't need to say that. You could just say, "Hey, I liked what I saw. I liked it. Yeah. You should watch it." Okay, James Gunn, that's great. I could agree or disagree after I've seen it, but, like, that's the thing. You might like it. There's nothing wrong. Gary, I have no objection to you liking the movie. If you liked it, that's great. But
that's, like, true.
Don't sell me a bill of goods, though. Like, it's not the greatest thing in the world. I mean,
I think that's his job. I don't. What's he gonna do? Don't see this movie? I mean, that just doesn't make any good business sense. Like, there was still a chance.
That's fine, but just don't lie. Is what I'm saying. Like, you could say, "Hey, man, we know that there's been a hard time getting this to screen. I had a lot of fun watching this movie. I think you will too." That's selling the movie and not lying.
That's a good point. I don't know how much people are going to remember that or whatever. I mean, I'm sure people will pull quote it, like, or whatever years from now if they want to dunk on him. I don't think he's that kind of figure, though, because he's still given us 3 Guardians movies and a Suicide Squad. I mean, we know what he can do.
I love the Guardians movies, and I like the Suicide Squad movie he did. So it's not like I'm looking for a reason to dunk on him. It's just like, to me, he had a certain amount of credibility that this now detracts from, in my opinion. And everyone's mileage on that, it's going to vary, and that's fine.
For sure.
But I don't know. It was such a clunky mess, and, like, I feel a little bit bad for Andy Muschietti, actually, because I really liked the first It movie, and the second one was okay, and I think some of that is structural stuff that was always going to be the case, because I think people who even loved the book had trouble with some of the things that make that movie not work. So, like, that's a source material issue that maybe there's nothing you can really do with. And in this case, he was brought in to save a sinking ship. So I don't know what parts of this are to blame on him versus to credit to him, because it's such a hodgepodge of God knows what from this tortured production over years, literal years of making this movie.
Yeah.
Well, I understand all of that. And I get what you're saying. I mean, from our 2 points of views, I could see 2 people coming away with it. And when you say, like, tearing at the seams, I see more just frayed around the edges. Okay. Like, some of the sloppy bits are just kind of there, but they're not enough to distract me. I still, when the way some of these people were like,
Gary's pull quote, some of the sloppy bits are just kind of there.
Like, you can say, oh, the love interest is bad, and I agree. Sure. It shouldn't be in the movie. You could say that about a lot of superhero movies, that the love interest is always just kind of thrown in.
For me, it's more one of the situations where it's just like, either craft a story around that or don't have it. Like, they tried to have their cake and eat it too. Well, it ended up being a weird open end where, like, she's in the movie for like 3 minutes.
In the defense of the directors, writers, and editors, like, this was clearly going to be more than one movie. There was going to be more movies, right? And they knew, like, at various times throughout the production of this movie, it was almost getting canned, and then it was definitely not going to have sequels, and then it might have sequels, and then it's definitely not again. So, like, to keep rewriting with that context, what can they do? That's a studio issue.
Was this movie meta to what the source thing was, where like they kept trying to fix it and it kept getting bigger and messier and bigger and messier, and then they didn't know how to contain it?
Definitely.
I think this movie has a lot of context, and you can take it either way. I mean, you can't ignore all these things about Ezra Miller.
Yeah. I'm sympathetic to the fact that all of the things, the pandemic, the DCEU, the Ezra Miller, like, I am sympathetic to those are things that make it really hard to make a movie that is legitimately objectively good. But, like, I'll go back to the argument I made earlier. Why is this the movie that got released rather than another one that they ostensibly shot? And I don't know, that movie might have been trash, but, like, they, I guess, made a good faith effort in making a movie, whereas this one, they threw so much good money and credibility after bad that I don't understand why this is the one that had to make it to theaters.
So I would argue that I'm conjecture, like, a good reason that you could say, like, let's get this one out there is they really could have leaned into the whole resetting of the DC universe with this movie, right? But they're not doing it. Yeah. They're choosing not to do it, which is what doesn't make any sense to me. Like,
if that's what it was this was supposed to be the magic wand of, hey, all that shit you didn't like, it's gone. We're starting fresh slate.
They could have done that. They had that right at their disposal.
And they played it for a cheap joke at the end. I mean, to be fair, I chuckled when I saw George Clooney show up, but, like, that's the big payoff to this.
Yeah.
I understand. It doesn't really choose. For me, I mean, just the moments are too good, and it's some of these, like,
there are moments.
Like the Keaton intro with the fight is fantastic. I even thought, like, some of these throwaway characters, like meeting the other Flash's, Flash 2, Goofy Flash's roommates were actually pretty funny.
Like, that was fun.
I think in, like, a Marvel movie that they would be, I don't know, the comedy just landed. And I've seen, like, an attempt at stuff like that in Marvel movies, and it's very over the top and, like, you know, it's overwritten, very Joss Whedon, where they actually let some of the jokes breathe in there. And for me, the main thing, because I love things that are comic booky, like when we did the Dark Knight Rises episode, and I'm just like, well, this is just the most ridiculous, like, version of a Christopher Nolan movie, and I love that, where it's like two Flashes and Batman in Russia for some reason to rescue Superwoman or Supergirl. I'm like, if I was reading this in a comic book, I would be like, this is fantastic. Like, this is just a weird, wacky story where, like, there's KGB guys shooting at Batman. I'm like, and Barry gets shot in the leg. I really loved all of that.
We can get shot?
Yeah, because they need Supergirl to save them. They get up or whatever. Like, Batman does the explosion where he, like, calculates everybody's weight and everything.
Great callback.
Which is very fantastic. Yep. And I just like that. If you were to tell me that this is what happens in this movie, that Barry goes into a hospital and saves a bunch of babies and puts one in a microwave, I'd be like, there's no way. But in the best possible way, where I'm just like, I would never guess, like, just the rewatchability of that, like, that they took such a leap in such a way, and that this is the send-off for Batfleck, where they actually gave him an action scene that was very, I thought, done well based on what we've gotten from Batfleck in these few movies where he never even got a full movie. But we get a chase scene and Alfred's there. They paid Jeremy Irons to come back and do his snarky little comments. And I'm like, I love bitchy little Alfred. Like, this is great.
Alfred is best when he's at his pettiest.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I really...
Alfred Pennyworth.
Exactly.
there's just too many moments, and I do think Ezra is a great actor. I do think he plays both roles very well off of each other. I do think that great scene is very emotional when he's in the Batcave trying to figure it out, and Keaton has given up on him, and he's like, "I'm not helping you, buddy," and he's just yelling at the other Barry, whose mom is still alive. And the story is not great because it can choose to do stuff and it doesn't, and I get that. But I've never seen in a superhero movie the lesson is that you can't save everyone. I've never seen that done before. So I just like that it wasn't generic. It wasn't, cookie cutter, whatever. It took chances. And I mean, he's in the Snyder Cut. He learns that he can save everyone. Like he goes and he reverses time so they do get the boom box or the boom tube to the mother box. I don't know, whatever.
I would have liked it better. Force. I would have liked it better if that movie was about them trying to find boom boxes.
Yes. And so he does fix it. And then the lesson in this movie is like, hey, for everything to work out, your mom has to die and it sucks. But you learn from that. And that's what makes you who you are.
Yeah, I mean, the really big picture message thing was definitely a pretty interesting and poignant choice for this movie. I've respected that they actually attach stakes to it, right? Like, we've watched so many superhero movies where they save everyone or pretty much everyone, and like you want to see that obviously on a real human level, but it's not realistic. And specifically for like some of the Uncle Ben has to die, right? And sometimes there are like these characters that have to die in order to impart a lesson upon like an important character or to express a theme properly that you want to for whatever given story. I did like that there were stakes. Because a lot of times outside of like Spider-Man and Batman, it doesn't always seem like that's the case. But so I had avoided. I was aware of the scene with the babies. I avoided it. I knew eventually I was going to be in a situation like this where we're going to do it for the show or whatever. I'm going to sit down and watch it at home. So I want to see it in its context. So I'm not just judging based on like a screenshot or a 5-second GIF or whatever. It's like I want to see the scene. And I do think that the hype cycle around it was probably a bit too strong, but it's an asinine scene. Like, it's so ridiculous. I'm just sitting there going like, dude, really? Like, come on. Like, and like culminating mostly in when he puts the baby in the microwave. Like, don't put a baby in the microwave. Like, don't do that.
I actually really enjoyed it. I thought that was just it was like a really fun concept of him just like using everything at his disposal to save everybody and use like the momentum and inertia like the appropriate way to like slow things down and roll them right out onto the street. The only thing that maybe after the whole thing was completed, I was like, that was silly. And when the microwave dinged before it opened, I was like, that's concerning. Yeah. That was it. That was my only problem.
Well, so like, I mean, I liked aspects of it. Yeah, like the idea of him at the end of it rolling down with the bed full of babies and the woman screaming, like that was a funny punctuation on the scene.
Yeah.
And like the thing with the dog trying to get the food amongst all of it. But like the thing with him trying to chase down the food and all that, and just some of the ridiculous with the babies, it's just like, come on, guys. Like, just come on. I don't know. It just didn't work for me. I didn't hate it the way that like the cycle of that went, however many months ago it was, but it's just like, there was more of a sigh.
I got a good chuckle out of that. When that kicks off the movie, I thought it was a good intro to like let's kind of set the tone for how we can do things here, and then it allows it by being so ridiculous up front. I feel like it allows it to go a little bit darker and be in a more meaningful way as things go on. But it was fun. This version of Barry is annoying as hell. Mm-hmm. The other version of Barry in this movie is so much worse that it almost makes our Barry better. That laugh goes through me like a knife, and I just cannot describe the pain that it causes me.
Flames?
On the side of my face, heaping hot flames. but it was I was really like it. The whole concept. I do love like the two Barrys meeting and like them trying to work that out. I loved being like, oh my god, you actually have to get your powers today, otherwise I don't know how I'm gonna get back. I'm like that, like the worry, right? The concept of like I don't know what I just did, and I don't know how to undo it, but I sure as hell know that you need to be able to be fast for it to work. And like then losing his powers in the process, and then just the comedy of trying to phase without the ability to move fast was really silly. And then the run in a circle around the precinct when he did not have speed, that really, all of that landed for me. I thought that was really funny. I was like, this is like as irritating as I find these two right now, this is good. Also, what are you doing with your arms?
I've from the beginning I've always been confused by that. But yeah, the scene where he's trying to run and like can't flash run anymore was pretty damn great. I like the recreation of the power. I didn't realize that was I'm sure there's been different versions over different movies and comic books and shows and whatever, but I didn't realize that was one of the ways that he got his power or whatever. Like,
I don't want to get struck by lightning. You're not going to get struck by lightning. These chemicals are going to get struck by lightning, and you're going to be bathed in them, and that's what's going to electrocute you.
The idea of him intentionally getting electrocuted over and over again to get his powers back, like all of that was
dark.
Yeah.
Peter, stop doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
I'll be curious if either of you have this thought, but when they're in Bruce Wayne's kitchen and the cabinets open slowly in the background, great, like Andy Muschietti stuff, right? Like very, like if it were a horror movie, that would be scary, but you kind of know what you're getting into, so it wasn't scary. It was just fun. They slowly open, and the body starts to climb out of the cabinet. When the foot landed and then they don't show you who it is at first, I was like, what is their reason for not showing us this if we know that Michael Keaton is already in the movie? And I was like, are we getting Catwoman? Like, is she also going to be here? And I was like, that would be awesome. It wasn't.
Michelle
but
Pfeiffer.
That would have been really cool.
Meow.
Yeah.
Anthony, how did the let's get nuts line land?
Oh, it landed so good. You know what? Michael Keaton is having so much fun reprising that role that it just makes it work. I'm as disgruntled as I am with the DC universe, I am very happy that this movie exists just to see that character.
Same brother.
It was just so good.
I liked this version of him. I was a little worried that he was going to kind of mail it in, like that he was kind of dragged kicking and screaming back to this. It did seem like he was a willing participant, which is nice to see, because sometimes in these sorts of movies that isn't the case. But
like it's like all of his experience shows, like all of his years as an actor, all of his years as playing roles within superhero franchises, like it's all there, and it's all so wonderful, and like it's aged well with his version of Bruce Wayne. I really, really enjoyed it. I also loved that his whole acceptance of what's going on as the Barrys are explaining it, while also cooking pasta and testing it for doneness. Like that whole sequence was just really silly to me, and I was like, the fact that we could have this character coming back to play this role that I love so much, land some of those things in the way that I would hope that he'd still be able to land them, and also add this layer of comedy on top of it. It was just, wow, I was so happy with it.
Well,
I was like a little kid when he came on screen. It was great.
It turned into him giving like a full blown like food metaphor for their whole like.
Time I love spaghetti time travel. That was fantastic.
It was really good.
Hard spaghetti time travel.
Yeah, as he's like playing around with the fucking pasta to show all the different tangled web and all that shit.
That was great. Also, New Barry learning about his speed and just dodging all of Bruce's attacks, and Old Barry just getting completely destroyed by everything that gets thrown his way. And that sequence was also very entertaining. Love that classic Batsuit though. We do have to talk about special effects for a minute, though. When he's running in the Speed Force bubble thing, I forgot what he calls it in this movie. Why is it so bad?
I don't know. I don't know what it's supposed to. I have heard this criticism, and I do get it. It does look bad. I also don't know what it's supposed to look like. So like I don't.
So I have no problem with their like 3-dimensional representation of like running through time. That was totally fine. What I don't understand is they have footage of all of the scenes that they used, but instead they made like crappy CG versions of them. They like everything was like put through a cartoony filter, which I didn't quite get.
So you're talking about
like
specifically the scene with like the spheres colliding like towards the.
No, not even when they were colliding. The first time he's running in that arena, and
Like
they're
when he's,
showing
like-
sequences from other movies that exist that are like fully done. Like just take those scenes could have been spliced into like that visual representation, but instead it was some weird recreation. The scene of Batfleck throwing the Batarang and him slowly moving out of the way of it, right? Like that is a thing that happened in a movie that they have the actual footage for that is fully done and fully like doctored up. But instead it's like the first pass of that is what is used in this sequence. And it's like very shiny and everything is kind of flat and it looks like it's hand drawn. It doesn't look like it's actually shot, which is I just don't understand what happened there. It very much to me seems like it was just like a blown budget thing, which I don't really get.
Well, the excuse that Muschietti gave, and a lot of people push back on this, and it's fine. I didn't to talk about the issue as like a whole. Like I didn't find all those things. I mean, I get it didn't look amazing, but I didn't find that so distracting that it took away from the overall movie for me. But what Muschietti said basically was like, that's how the Flash would see it, basically. So we're seeing it how he sees it. It's like a hyper-realism sort of thing where it wouldn't look like 100% like it happened in real life because he's moving so fast.
6 billion frames per second, is that?
Yeah. I
soap opera effect to the max.
I get it if you don't like it. I don't know. The spheres weren't the whole movie. I agree also that CGI Christopher Reeves doesn't look great, but I think it's still pretty. It's cool to see him. It's
or
cool
Nicolas
to
Cage.
see.
But you know what though? Those two things in particular, I didn't actually mind because like those were like I feel like and sure they could have used like actual footage, right? And that wasn't. That was computer generated footage with material. But like it was the scenes of movies that this thing exists already in the same, like within a few years of being made. Like it's just content that they have already. That's what I thought was weird. And the only reason why I bring it up is it was a little uncanny valley to see those things, and that did take me out of the experience. I was like, something's wrong with this. Like it just, that was just like it really, it kind of broke it for me. I liked the way of displaying him moving through time though. I thought that was pretty cool. Like as the arena. I thought the concept of the arena was really cool because in a lot of it,
the central hub to like like where all of that goes down.
Yeah, like he like kind of stands in the middle and he runs really fast in one direction and it like rotates time this way and like you see things kind of unwind. Like that was I thought like conceptually I thought that was really cool. Much better than some of the more linear depictions that they give in other sources of the Flash, but which is fun. Just the actual thing on screen. I was like, what is he? Just give it, let it cook. Just like put it back in the oven a little bit longer. I don't understand. It's not ready yet.
I mean, if I'm going to be critical, I would say that they introduced this whole he needs to eat food thing in the very beginning, and then it just totally goes away when he's like rewinding time 100,000 times or whatever. Like it doesn't show him eating it. They're just like, Barry, we can do it. We can do it again. Let's do it again.
Well,
it's just really funny.
Problem I had with that whole thing because I didn't mind it as part of like the setup in the very beginning of the movie where he needs his coffee, he needs to eat all that sort of stuff. He doesn't get what
peanut butter, banana, raisins, honey, and cheese. Is that on a roll?
Maybe with like the whole thing with the barista and telling the life story and all that sort of stuff.
that was kind of funny. I've had that barista.
Yeah, off too. When he comes back after saving the world or whatever, he's like, oh, was that fast enough for you? I thought that was pretty funny, man.
But him chasing down the food in the middle of like the baby's falling, it's just like there's not a better time we could have done this sort of thing. But like, I do like overall that we have like kind of a mechanic of like what's a limitation on his powers to whatever extent. But then to not follow up and chase that down in any way doesn't make a lot of sense. Like later in the movie, because there's
it's just to explain how second Barry is tired.
Yeah, I guess so. There's also the whole thing about
are we always hungry and tired and naked? It's like
yes,
but like also like you also with the other Barry, you also get the situation of him not having like the better suit too. So like you have like, get more tired and more like overwhelmed by using like the high energy suit that like he couldn't disperse. It was kind of like the opposite of it was kind of like the opposite of the Black Panther like suit where he like could store the energy and then use it as a weapon versus this one was like, no, he has to disperse the energy, otherwise it becomes a problem. I did appreciate that we get a Star Wars joke of, oh, let me Palpatine that. And he's just blasting away with like force lightning. I was like, it's like, oh, okay, I like that actually. That's cool. And like for him to like keep using it like throughout the course of it, it's like, I appreciate this mechanic. That's like a cool way to show the difference. Not just because of like the concerns that they have to worry about managing themselves within the flow of this fight, but also like the Force. You have the Flash doing the regular Flash stuff, and you get like young Flash who doesn't have the same benefits being able to do this thing with him blasting away with lightning in a more concentrated Sith-y way.
Sithy. No, I during that movie, Kim and I went to go see that one in theaters, and Kim was Diane Krugered by Eric Stoltz as Marty McFly. She had just recently learned about that, about all of that, and then we got it. Which was, I mean, that was pretty great to use that as as one of the alternate timelines.
Yeah,
I like that. I also appreciated Marty McThigh. That's not even your thigh.
Yeah, I mean, all that stuff kind of landed for me, and it seems like, when Marvel wants to do, like, the Taika Waititi stuff is pretty funny, but, I don't, it just seemed very, what's the word? Organic. Like, it didn't seem like manufactured, like, these people were actually really funny just being on set, like, landing jokes.
Yeah, for sure. I think that we talked a little bit, like there's like moments in the movie that are super dark, like the realization that Batman is going to die and Supergirl is going to die, and like those are like we're not going to be able to reverse these aspects of it, and we have to move forward from it. Like going through that over and over again, I think like there's the very heavy aspect of Barry having to come to terms with that, which is like that's the obvious one. But I think the really cool aspect is to keep looking at it. It's like, no matter how many different versions there are of the universe, like Batman and Supergirl always go all into the point of death. Like they never question it. They never back out. They're like, I think that was like a really cool thing. Like that, these are these characters. These are who they are. They are heroes, and they will fight to the end. And they never falter. Not once in like the billion versions that Barry goes through. They always do it to the end. And I was like, that's so cool. I just thought that was very superhero-y.
Absolutely. And then the fact that this Flash, the Barry 2, isn't supposed to have superpowers, like that's part of the thing too. Like he gets a mom, he gets a girlfriend, he says, or whatever. And I guess in this universe, like Zod just terraforms the planet and that's it. Everybody dies.
Yeah.
So that's part of the Flash creating his own villain, basically. That's why this Flash is evil, because he had everything Barry wanted, and then he got more. And he wanted to keep it all for himself. Mm-hmm. I think that's pretty clever if you think about it.
Yeah, for sure. That was awesome. I will say, deformed, like Time Wraith Flash was. I was like, is it? And like with the big reveal, right? Like where the mask is like slightly pulled away out, and it's like supposed to be like, oh, it's that. I was like, but is it the same person? I'm having a hard time. I'm guessing it's the same person. They do not look alike to me. I guess we never really get an answer for. I mean, in some of these instances, I don't know if it's same Barry that ends up killing his mom to kind of reset the timeline, but we never get an answer for that, which I assume would have been like in the sequel, like explored and introduced Reverse Flash and all that stuff. But one thing that bothered me, well, first off, I thought the whole thing with the can of tomato, like the whole like I'm going to go back so that it never forgets the tomatoes, like that was great. I think that was like really cool. And then obviously that kick starts this whole thing where the mom doesn't die. I do like the concept that like if I just move these cans up to the top shelf, is that a small enough change that it doesn't impact everything? Like, because everything plays up to the point where it is today, and now when he goes to the trial, the evidence is there to acquit him. So it's like, I'm actually changing what's going to happen soon, not what's happened already. And I feel like that was a really cool concept. But then, of course, it had effects in that George Clooney became Batman.
Yes. I guess George Clooney was always Batman. He just went to a universe where that happened. I don't know, man. That's part of the reason why I love like time travel movies or whatever. And it's just the logic. You could spend so much time on it, like Looper or The Terminator. But I don't.
I've tried to. My mom will watch some of these superhero movies and some of these things, even some of the CW shows that I used to watch. But like we've talked about this in the past. She really hates when it gets into time travel, and like all I can think of, once we enter time travel, just surrender. Don't get too hung up on it. Just
I think
surrender.
That's an old person thing. I think there's an age. I don't know what the threshold is specifically, but there's an age where. Oh, time travel? Nope, out, done. Can't do it. I can't follow it, can't understand it. Not for me. Like, I don't know. It's something that starts with a 4 or a 5, but there's an age where that's what happens, and you're like, nope, done, can't do it. And it's like, I get it to extent. Like, at this point, there's been so many movies that do time travel stuff where I'm just like, whatever your rules are going to be, pick them, establish them, stick with them. Like, I just, like, because for a lot of this movie, it felt like it was doing that, because, like, they keep iterating it and changing it, and it's causing more and more problems. It's this cascade, and it's like the butterfly effect gone the worst it can go. And then the message theme can't change the past, gotta leave it what it is, whatever. And then he still goes and changes the past, and it's like somehow it still fixes it, but also George Clooney. And it's like, no, you can't have it both ways. You were so close. You're so close to getting it right.
I don't think they had it. I don't think they had it both ways. They literally it was such a subtle change that it is a very close branch in time, but it is a branch. It's a difference. So it's a different one. I actually think that they were actually extremely consistent with it. And I think my favorite part about their version of the mechanic is that wherever you change the point, it creates a pivot, and it's an actual entire timeline, not just a branch off of that point. I really liked that concept. That like. Also, the past is different from that point that you just created. Like, and it's like because time is bi-directional in their version of it. And I was like, I thought that was awesome.
I guess I just like something seemed off in it, and like the whole thing with Clooney, like he could tell like he's not, something's wrong, and more than just him when he gets back and all that. Like, I don't know. I just feel like they're playing it for the joke, which is fine. I get it. And maybe with this being the end of it, like, just get the joke off and, like, that's enough. And maybe I just gotta stop yelling at clouds. I don't know. But I feel like that's just continuing to perpetuate the idea of, like you couldn't mess with anything. And it would rob us of the emotional moment he gets with his mom. It was actually really nice. Like, that was a cool...
It was really good, man.
...way to say goodbye and all that, and embrace and grow up and finally grieve properly, because clearly he spent the 15 or 20 years not grieving, and I get that. So like maybe that trade-off's worth it. I don't know. It's just it felt cynical, the Clooney thing. Like, it just felt like it's for a joke that's not worth the squeeze. I don't know.
I don't think I would be alarmed if someone walked up to my mom in a supermarket and was acting like that and crying and like
sure
she was just like, oh, this is fine, let me hug you. Like, I would be like, Mom, what are you doing? But this is what is going on. Two things about the Clooney thing. So number one, he went back and like George Clooney was always Batman in the timeline that he created or went back to. he only knows that because he changed it, basically. Like, it doesn't wipe his memory. And number 2, George Clooney, you couldn't shave your beard, my guy? Seriously? Seriously. Please. Come on.
I know what you were saying, Al, about like it almost seems like Bruce knows something's up, but that is something to be said about Bruce Wayne. Probably would be able to decipher that something has gone awry in some capacity. Like, and we actually get that in our Barry's actual Bruce with their Batfleck. Because his last line is like, maybe next time, like about like getting food, but like the way that he says it and like the look at he's like he's like you're about to go do something that is going to prevent me from existing, basically. Like he like knows it's happening, and he's just like,
that's true.
We had a good run. Like that was, he's so tired and old at this point. He's just like, whatever.
I guess so.
I guess that's part of one of the post credits was supposed to be Ben Affleck like talking through a TV screen or something and trying to get like Barry's like, Barry, save me, help, I'm in a different dimension. So if there was a sequel, I think it was supposed to be like trying to get Batfleck back. And I think that would have been related to his scenes that were cut in Aquaman 2 that they replaced with Keaton scenes. And now I don't think Batman's in Aquaman 2 at all.
Huh.
And that whole situation has been so weird with he's gone, he's back, he's gone, he's back. Same thing with Cavill, whatever. I do think it's very odd how much screen time he's gotten across multiple different movies, playing this character that he never got his own movie. Not that it's something I was clamoring for because I hate Ben Affleck, but like it's
I would
just
have liked to see it.
Weird. It's such a weird situation. Like even Batman vs Superman isn't a Batman movie or a Superman movie.
That's true.
It's not even a Justice League movie, even though like half the Justice
League is the dawn of
justice there. It's weird. I liked the cameo talking about like post credits and all that. I kind of liked the cameo with Aquaman at the end. Like that was kind of funny. Obviously, we got Diana earlier in the movie with Wonder Woman and her pointy guitar showing up to save the day at the last second like that. That's cool.
Lasso of Truth.
The Lasso of Truth. Yeah.
I know what sex is, but I've never experienced it.
That was actually pretty funny. I guess the one thing we haven't really talked about too much that I took me a while to kind of like feel like I got a concrete feel on like how I was embracing this role or whatever, but was it the Kara L or whatever the hell? What the hell was the Kara? Yes. Yeah, I actually kind of like that take on the character. I thought it was interesting. I don't know too much about Supergirl like in general, but just like the idea of this being kind of a mirror image of Clark and all that. I kind of dug that whole storyline with her and the will she won't she help them, and like seeing a kind of a more dutiful Supergirl type of situation where like Superman is trying, like he ultimately ends up sacrificing himself, right, in Batman vs Superman to an extent or whatever. But I don't know. I just felt like this was a different take on that she was willing to give everything up in order to try to make this right like that.
That was interesting. I also think what's even more interesting is that if it wasn't for them saving her and not knowing who she was, like she would have easily just destroyed all of humankind because of how they treated her from the moment she landed on the planet, right? Yeah. But like, it's like, why did you save me? Because it's the right thing to do. It's like, oh, maybe you're not all so bad, and then she like helps them. And like that was like such a pivotal moment for that character that we only got 4 minutes of. Like, I think that was kind of cool.
It was like a very sliding. We've talked enough about like the butterfly effect, but like a sliding door thing. Like, what are the different options of like whether we help or whether we don't help or where does this go?
Sure.
So I thought that was cool. I did think it was interesting to show the representation of that, of like the iterations of like the different way that Zod kills her, like the fact that it's always going to end this way, or the different ways that Batman's going to die, whether he sacrifices himself nobly but totally pointlessly, or by crashing his ship into their ship or whatever. And then the fight sequence, that was a pretty cool fight with Keaton fighting the Kryptonian guy. like that fucking juggernaut ass bitch that he was, like just going nuts with all his different gadgets and the way he's going after it. It's like, man, that is a fight you should just not be picking like hand to hand. It's not going to go well for you.
I just want to circle back to Kara for a second, being in captivity and the potential for her to become just like this murdering machine. Have either of you seen Brightburn? I can't remember if we did it on the show or not.
No, we talked about
that movie was bonkers.
That movie,
I was like, I am uncomfortable.
That movie's good, dude.
But it was we were a stone's throw away from getting that version of Kara.
That's true. Also, the Batman, the head grenade, how he ends that fight, amazing, dude. I loved that.
Oh man, I'm so happy I got to see Michael Keaton as Batman again.
Me too. I mean, that was like the way people were talking about the movie, like, oh, it's such a mess, it's so awful. Like, maybe it's one of those things where people like were so negative about the movie going into it, and then when I actually went down and like sat down and saw it, I was like, but there's enough here to make me like really like and appreciate this. And I mean, Keaton's definitely trying. I think Ezra Miller is an actual good actor. If he gets the help that he needs and stuff like that. But it was like a whole movie. It was a cohesive, pretty much movie that was put together in the way, people dragged it and it didn't make any money. And I saw it in the theater, I think on the third week pretty much. And there was still a crowd, there were people laughing at some of the jokes that we mentioned earlier. And, if it was a big failure or ultimately or something like that, then that kind of sucks. But I'll always, appreciate it. And it has moments like we're not going to see Keaton as Batman again. This is it, man. Like,
yeah, for sure.
I think he got a decent send off if he needed a final punctuation on that role and all that. Just even seeing the transformation he goes from being like basically a hobo living in his own kitchen to, again, being a heroic sacrificial Batman and all was kind of cool.
That whole hobo in the kitchen thing was actually like, I really enjoy that because I feel like there's been a number of times over the years, whether it be like a story arc in a comic that I've read or even like the Arrow show. I feel like that is like a depiction that you normally get of Oliver Queen at some point in some distant future where like everything's gone to shit and he looks like a hobo and like it's like very much like that look. And I was like, what? Like we're doing a little cross Bruce Wayne Oliver Queen thing going on over here. I kind of like it, but it was just so fun to see him back, and of course for him to deliver one of my favorite lines. Anybody have any other closing thoughts on The Flash?
Good for was it Ron Livingston being in this movie?
That's true.
Good for him.
Yes, replacing Dr. Manhattan or whatever.
Was he in the? Was he in the?
Almost Famous guy is the Flash's dad in the Snyder Cut and Justice League.
I totally forgot about that.
And they replace him with Ron Livingston.
Wait, who?
Billy Crudup.
Billy Crudup.
Yeah, Billy Crudup is the Flash's dad.
I have no idea.
Okay, yeah, I remember that.
In the jail scene or whatever, where he goes to visit him.
I don't know if either of you watched the morning show, but I think Billy Crudup could play a good Joker.
Okay.
It's not going to, just a thought.
No.
I can see it.
Make your own fan art with Billy Crudup as the Joker.
Joker face on Dr. Manhattan body.
Yes.
Got it. Cool.
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty much it. It's just like, I just felt like a lot of times in this movie, I was just like, why? Like, why this? Or how this? And there's other times where I was like, oh, okay, I like that. Like you mentioned earlier, the scene with the roommates was cool. It was entertaining. I just felt like even the good scenes didn't have the structural integrity built between them and the rest of the movie in such ways to make this feel like a complete movie that transitioned from spot to spot in the way that a movie is supposed to, you know?
Huh.
I found it to be the least offensive of the Snyderverse.
I mean, if you made me sit down and watch one of these again, I would pick the first Wonder Woman over this. I would pick the first Aquaman over this. I would.
I'd probably watch this mostly for Keaton.
And then like you're getting into, I would probably pick the first Shazam over this. Like so.
Yeah, Shazam one rules.
The first one was really good. Wait, does the second one? Did you guys see the second one? Does it get better?
I didn't see it.
No, that's part of the problem too. Is just the nostalgia of this movie is so powerful in people like people 30 and up, pretty much. Hold on, I think I lost my. Oh no.
You're good. You're good. Just keep going.
Yes. So yeah, just the power of nostalgia, because I haven't seen Ant-Man in Quantumania. I didn't even see Black Panther 2, just because I'm not. I don't know if I'm really prepared to watch that movie with Chadwick Boseman passing away and how they handle it and stuff like that. But I know what I do want to see, and it's Michael Keaton as Batman, and Christopher Reeves as Superman, and I would like to see that again, and that's what this movie gives you. I think there's enough good stuff around it. I mean, if Ezra Miller wasn't in the Warner Brothers system, if he wasn't so tied to them, I mean, he could have been like a Spider-Man probably like 6 or 7 years ago when they were doing. He just has the juice, really, I think, and I don't find him too annoying. Or when he is annoying, I get that he's acting. He's a character. It's like
it's a character.
It's awkward to be fast.
It's hard to tell where the character.
Gary, you are echoing. Can you mute your Skype? Thank you, sir.
It's hard to tell where Sill's echoing somehow. It's hard to tell where Barry the character starts and ends, and where Ezra Miller the actor starts and ends. Like what are the? And this has been my issue with the character all along, and why I've been hesitant actually to criticize Ezra and in this role is what of this is because of poor writing and direction. What of this is because of the choices that Miller is making? It can be tough to parse that sometimes watching this sort of stuff. But I actually think they've done a good job generally as an actor. We've talked about it before.
Yeah, I think they did just fine. Yeah, and honestly, in everything I've seen them in, I have appreciated the performances. I also but
it's bad. It's bad in the what's called the Harry Potter movies. But again, I don't know why.
That's writing though. That's
probably
not, yeah.
But at this point, there's a lot of screen time of quote unquote poor performance that it's like it's getting harder and harder to like really truly nail down which one.
But even in those movies, I didn't think that their performance was necessarily bad. The performance was good.
I just mean like the
character
on screen is tough to watch, I guess.
I got you.
Or not, it's like actually pure poor performance like that. Like, it's just at that amount of time, it's hard to really give them a total pass. But on the other hand, I still suspect that there's a lot of writing and direction issues.
Sure. Cool. Well, that's all for this very extended episode of Flix and a Six. We hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you have a movie for us to review or nuggets for us to discuss, you can send those requests to flixandsix@thespintune.com. Tune in next week for more movie and beer goodness. Until then, I'm Anthony Costanzo.
I'm Al Biolsi.
And I'm Gary Gurecki.
Thanks for coming out.